This is Barbara Talks. If you're tuning into this for the first time, my name is Barbara. So today I decided to go live a little bit sooner for those of you who can catch the evening lives. So for those of you who are maybe tuning in for the first time, if you guys are interested in your own natal chart reading, a synastry reading, progress natal chart reading, mini synastry reading, mini natal chart reading, you guys can always send me an email. So you can go in the description box below, or if you're on the live currently, you can go on my About Me tab and you can go on my website, select the readings tab, and then pick which reading you guys would like. An email window should pop up. Send me an email and then we will go from there. Okay, so that's how you guys get the readings. The readings are typically, they are pre-recorded. So in advance, you guys can tell me if there's something specific you guys want me to look at. Otherwise, I will just go over the natal chart and then I will send you guys the video and you guys can watch it as many times as you guys would like. Also, if you guys would like business guidance, okay, I have that available as well. I also have something called Astro Guidance too. So that's for those of you who want to get into your natal charts in depth, okay? So that's also available on my website. And then also I have the business guidance. I'll have packages for all those things. You guys can find all of that on my website. As usual, send me an email and we will go from there. Hey everyone, welcome. You guys are awesome as well. Welcome to the chat. I'm excited to meet some of you guys that maybe I don't meet when I do the later lives. You guys are the best as well. Hey Julie. Hey Jano. Hey Krupa. How are you guys doing? And yes, that's another thing too, you guys. So when I post the live and there's like the buffer window until I actually do go live, you guys can always comment in the chat if you guys have any questions. If you can't actually tune into the live, I can read your comments after, okay? And then while I am live, I can answer your questions. You said, okay, so Julia, you said you were wondering how would you interpret 6th house Scorpio, Pluto, conjunct moon, 0-degree orb. Oh, wow. And then you said, and loose conjunction with the North Node. How far away is it from the North Node? You said you feel like you've been looking into South Node, Taurus, 12th house, and it all feels like a weird combination. So you have 6th house Scorpio. When I see 6th house Scorpio in a natal chart, basically what this symbolizes is this person is here to quote unquote heal, is really what it is. This energy could also manifest into someone who's like a private investigator or something of the sort. Like you could be involved in true crime, but it could also be someone who is actually like a healer. Like you create some sort of healing modality. You're able to hook into people's energy because of the Scorpio energy, bring certain things out to the surface because the 6th house is also the healing house. So it could be a little bit more grounded healing perhaps, okay? So it could manifest in that way. Now, you said Pluto conjunct moon, that's intense, okay? And it's in Scorpio. So already like you're psychic, you're a medium. Make sure you guys like the live. You can like the live by double tapping the video, okay? Thank you so much. Obviously, if you guys so choose to. But yeah, so Pluto conjunct moon. I mean, already you have moon in Scorpio, and then now you have Pluto conjunct moon, which adds this like whole other layer of intensity. Like basically this is like an intense home and intense upbringing. You're going to have mediumship abilities for sure, or like psychic and abilities. Like basically you have all of these abilities, you know? So it's going to be up to you to figure out how can you hook into this. Like you're always picking up on things. I find a lot of the time people who are born psychic actually get gaslit a lot of the time when you guys are young, okay? So it could be by the family, it could be by society, it could be by friends, and then it could kind of perpetuate throughout your lives. But it's like, it's a matter of learning to trust that psychic muscle, okay? And the intuition within. So it's this. And now you said it's 5 degrees away from the North Node as well. So all of this now is connected to your life purpose, okay? So your life purpose could involve probably like some sort of karmic clearance connected to the home because it's Pluto and moon, and now it's conjunct the North Node as well. Also, it could involve healing and clearing for other people, okay, as well, because it's also the 6th house, right? So maybe come up with some sort of new healing modality or something of that sort. Having South Node and Taurus in the 12th house, it could have been more of a grounded lifetime for you in a previous lifetime. Hey Manning, like you could have accumulated spiritual knowledge. So the way that I see the North Node, South Node now is that the South Node could be, yes, something that you mastered, but it's also a lot of the time, you know, something that maybe you mastered but didn't get to fully express. So you want to take the South Node and basically apply it in the North Node type of way, okay? So it's this. So you probably mastered some sort of spiritual knowledge. Maybe you were more about the day-to-day because it's in Taurus. Maybe you weren't able to express that. You now have this knowledge within you. Like whenever you guys have any sort of 12th house energy taking place in your chart, like that's something that you either mastered in a previous lifetime or like knowledge that you accumulated. So it's a matter of trying to get into like a meditative state to actually be able to access that information. Like I really, really hope that makes sense. Hey Lindsay, how are you guys doing? Oh, good. You've been watching my videos on karmic clearance. Yes. Okay. So let me look at your question. You're welcome. You said it's almost 10 p.m. That's perfect for you. I'm glad that you were able to catch the live, actually. Okay. So I'm glad that you're here, and thank you for all of the likes and shares and comments and everything on the channel. You guys are awesome, and for being a part of the channel overall. Okay. So what would you like to know about karmic clearance? You said you wanted to know. I'm doing well, Lindsay. How are you? You said you wanted to know how, hey Malibu, nice to see you as well. I hope you're well as well. I'm answering astrology questions, you guys, metaphysical questions, questions about your natal charts. I'm on earlier today so I could catch the people who don't usually catch the lives when I do them later in the day. I mean, later in the day for me, maybe it's like in the middle of the night for some of you guys. Okay, so you said you wanted to know, how do you know you have cleared karmic cycles? What are the signs to look for? It's hard for me to explain because I'm very clairsentient myself, so it's more so like a feeling. So I'm going to try to explain it to you in terms of that. So when something is karmic, it's kind of like the devil card in the tarot, okay? It feels intense. It's usually connected to the lower 3 chakras. It's going to be connected to some sort of wounding or some sort of ego thing. Like, you have to explore the lower 3 chakras. So for example, something karmic could be, for example, when someone gets into a relationship for money reasons, okay? Like for stability reasons, which I understand. Like, obviously you want to look at that when it comes to relationships, like maybe that you guys are on the same page, but it's like, let's say you maybe had another option or something of that sort where you really wanted to be with that person, but you're not with that person because you're like, okay, no, it makes more sense to be with this person for financial reasons, okay? I'm kind of giving that example. I know these days people talk about that a lot, of just like looking for people in terms of like their finances, but I find that as long as maybe you guys are both on the same page financially, like, I understand, okay, for that to work. But like, let's say this is someone, you know, where it's like you are fine on your own financially, but maybe this person might bring through more stability or something of that sort. And it's like, it's an ego-driven reason. Like, it's all about like, is it an ego-driven reason? Like, that's kind of what I'm trying to get across. You have to explore within the self and be like, is this an ego-driven reason, for example, right? So I'm kind of giving that example randomly. But yeah, so let's say you kind of ditch the other person, and you know, you didn't listen to your intuition, like maybe you had a pull toward them or something of that sort, or like, you know, it was coming from the heart space and you went for the ego driven reason. Well, in that dynamic, now this is karmic, okay, because of the fact that, again, you went with the lower 3 chakras, okay? And like, other karmic dynamics can deal with like things that need to be healed or cleared. So for example, I kind of gave like the stability thing, which is the root chakra, but it could also be sometimes an abandonment wound. For example, like a lot of people settle in relationships because maybe they don't want to be alone, or they have the fear of being alone, or it could even sometimes be like scarcity, where you like fear that you might not be able, you know, to find a person again or whatever in the future if you don't take this opportunity. So it could be things like this. Like, those are usually karmic types of dynamics. Now, it doesn't just have to be in relationships with people. That's like where you will feel it the most, okay? But you'll also feel karmic things like, let's say it's a job, you know what I mean? And like, let's say you said to yourself and you're like, no, I'm going to focus on my thing. And like, now it's like, you know, there's this job that's kind of being offered to you. That's maybe like a lot of money. Okay. Interesting that the money thing keeps coming up. So maybe that's resonating for some of you guys out there. But yeah, so like, let's say this job comes up, but it's like, you know, within the body, it just doesn't feel like an alignment, but you kind of take it because of the fact that, again, you kind of went for like an ego driven reason. And then, you know, it's karmic, right? Because it's not in alignment with the heart space. So it's really, really hard to explain. Hey, everybody. How you guys do? Oops, 1 second. I hid one of you guys, but that's not the person I wanted to hide. I just unhid you. Okay. You should be back. I clicked on the... Okay, anyways, so that's kind of how it works with like karmic dynamics, okay? So it's like when you do things for ego-driven reasons, or like you feel like you should, or something that was projected on you maybe by your family, you know, like let's say you wanted to really, you know, do something for work. Like, let's say you really wanted to be a nurse and everybody in your family was part of the family business. This is now karmic because you're not listening to yourself. So that's kind of how you'll know. It's like, the more you start to listen to your heart space and your intuition, you're not going to be in these karmic situations. Karmic situations are usually either things that are, you know, operating when you're operating out of the lower 3 chakras, either that or out of your wounding or out of ego driven things, or because you think you should do it, or because somebody told you to do it, or because the expectation is there for you to do it. Does that make sense? and then you kind of get tangled into this karmic web that then you have to untangle yourself from, okay? Because anytime you're in a situation where you didn't listen to your heart space, and the thing is, the heart space, I know that sounds corny, but it's like your heart space is connected to your intuition, and your intuition then is connected to God, okay, or source, or the creator. So it's like everyone has the intuition within the self, and the intuitive muscle is actually what's meant to be guiding people down here, because it's kind of like your compass down here on this earth plane, okay? If it really is true that, you know, when they say that your memory gets wiped when you incarnate down here on this earth plane, well, the only thing that, like, they can't wipe, like, the feeling, you know what I mean? Like, they can't wipe, like, the heart chakra. So that's the whole thing. It's like you have to get in tune with the heart space, because then that's your intuition, and that's also going to be like, you know, when you feel in a situation like this is, you know, where I'm meant to be right now. It feels easy, it feels smooth, it feels high vibrational, or it's like, again, the karmic energy is always like intense. It's like the devil energy, right? Sometimes it feels like a vortex, like it's pulling you in, and these types of things, okay? And then there's also the types of karmic situations where people are kind of sent to you to throw you off your path, okay? So that's a whole different conversation of its own, because the higher up you go in your frequency, and the higher up you go in terms of listening to the heart space and trusting that, you'll have people sent to you. Some people might call this tests, okay? But the way that I see it is like these people kind of get sent to you to throw you off your path, right? So if there's any sort of like blind spot energetically, and this is the whole thing when people talk about healing, it's not just a matter of focusing on healing, because no one's going to be 100% healed, but it's a matter of looking at your lower three chakras, what's going on in there, and are you operating out of your lower three chakras? Like, do you make your decisions based on the lower three chakras, okay? Hey everyone, I'm doing well. How are you guys doing? You said the ego is for materialism, which is usually a result of insecurity, and you don't realize you are already whole, and the heart is to align with your soul's purpose. Exactly. That's the whole name of the game, okay? Thank you, thank you, thank you. Exactly. You said new levels, new devils. That is so good. That's exactly what it is, okay? So the more you go into the higher frequencies, the more you come into your truth, the more you will have these people sent your way, okay? And unfortunately, that's just the way that it is down here, because it's actually all then connected to the reincarnation loop, okay? So basically, it's a little bit more complex. If you guys want to learn more, check out my videos. It's under my metaphysical playlist. I have one called How to Clear Karma. One of them's from like way back, but I do believe that it's still pretty resonant today. I have a How to Clear Karma video. I have one called How to Not Reincarnate Again, and some other things in there, like in terms of like the reincarnation loop and the cycle. And then, you know, as I learn more, I teach you guys, or I explain to you guys like the things that I've learned. So it's like, then I learned even about Saturn and like the Saturnian control, or at least I came to that conclusion, okay? And Saturn, okay, is what operates everything down here. So Saturn is the reincarnation loop. Saturn is the quote unquote karma. Saturn is like the quote unquote shadow patriarchy. Like that's all the Saturn energy, okay? That's like the grid, okay? Because I always felt a grid around the earth plane, because it's very restrictive down here. And then eventually came to the conclusion that it's Saturn. So if you guys want to learn more about that, or like kind of put all those pieces together, like it's all going to be my metaphysical playlist, okay? But the whole thing is like down here, like there are obviously malevolent energies that want to use the humans as battery packs to play out their agendas, and specifically people's feminine energy. So the feminine energy is energetically targeted, because the feminine energy is, once again, your connection to God, source, and the creator. So the more you are in tune with your heart space and your feelings, you're actually connected to God then, okay, or source, or the creator, okay? And then again, the higher up you elevate in your own chakras or frequencies, you kind of become invisible in terms of the structure, and they don't like that, okay? So that's kind of how you can operate outside of the Saturnian structure. But it's like, this is why we need astrology and all these things to see where do you get energetically targeted, okay, in terms of maybe your soft spots, your wounds, and your weaknesses. And I don't think, because it's in your chart, it's like part of your code, I don't think you can ever fully heal these things, but I think you can have the awareness that when these people come along, it's kind of like a loop. And then a lot of people get trapped in the same loop, okay? They end up doing the same thing, the same cycles, and then that's also karmic, okay? So then you're operating within the structure, and it's basically siphoning your energy is really what it is, because you're not in your truth, okay? Ultimately, okay? You're kind of playing out programming and all of these things. So that's how it is. So it's this. You said, thank you so much for explaining. Good. You said, so as long as you're operating from your higher chakras, you're either clearing cycles or at least not building more karma to clear it later. Exactly. But it's like, you also don't want to get into the spiritual bypassing energy either. Okay. So this is why it's like, you have to learn yourself to see, have you actually cleared these things out? Do you know what I mean? Because you can't ignore it either. I hope that makes sense. So it's like you have to like figure out what are your shadows, what are your shadow traits, because there's so many different types of shadows that people have, right? But most of them are rooted in like the core societal fears, okay? And I speak about that in my Exploring the Chakras playlist, which you guys can check out that as well, okay? So check out my Exploring the Chakras playlist, because in there I talk about specifically the lower 3 chakras, so the root chakra, the sacral chakra, and then the solar plexus. The heart chakra is a little bit connected in there as well in terms of like the collective wounds, because the collective wounds are the wounds that kind of pull people down, right? So I spoke on, you know, just briefly now in terms of the root chakra. It deals with like security, finances, money, sometimes it's status, sometimes it's image. Like those are very much like root chakra based things. And then we have the sacral chakra, which is like sexuality. So a lot of the time, like, okay, well, actually most of the time down here on this earth plane, the sacral chakra is very energetically targeted. So we either have repression of sexuality or we have the hypersexualization, okay, within the collective, and neither of these things serve anybody, because it's like, first of all, people don't even know what the sexual energy is, they don't know how to use it, and then they either kind of just like give it away, and it's just like, you know, it has nothing to do with like the act itself. It's just like the sexual energy, because it could be just like you by yourself, do you know what I mean, engaging in this. But then it's like, you know, sometimes if you're watching certain things and all of these things, and like, you know, you get to that heightened point, you're opening up your energetic field and you're opening up your energetic vessel, right? So when people are mindless with this energy, it's like, let's say you are watching something, okay, and I'm kind of speaking between the lines here, I hope you guys catch my drift. Whatever is encoded in that thing that you're watching, that you've now opened up your energetic field to, you are going to absorb all of the energies that are in there. So in certain things like that are, you know, again, accessible through the internet, okay, I'm talking about like PORN for people, it's like those things have a lot of dark magic involved in them, okay? So when people open up their energy fields, when they get to that heightened point, you're not going to absorb energetically whatever is on the screen, okay? And that's just what happens, and people don't have that awareness. And then you kind of see people like behaving in like strange ways. And it's not just that, because like even in the Scorpio video that I posted recently, okay, the short that I posted where I talked about Scorpio and sexual energy, the struggle is like people are trying to get to like a strong quote unquote heightened point, but then for some people, because they're doing this all the time, they're always looking for like more intense things to reach that point. I hope that makes sense. So it's like the more intense things that they might be looking for, it's just like it opens up their energetic field even more, and it's like more energies enter their field. I really hope that makes sense. So it's like always up to the other person or to the person themselves, right, to close their energetic field, because it's like you could close your energetic field, but you could also be involved with people around you that open up their energetic field, especially through the sexual energy, okay? So that's the thing with the sacral chakra, okay? So the sacral chakra is specifically targeted because the sacral chakra is your manifestor's energy, it's your creative energy, right? So a lot of the time when people have quote unquote low life force, they either give it away too much, okay? And it doesn't have to be with people. It can also be, again, like I mentioned, with themselves, you know, to the point where it's like they're always opening up their field, they're absorbing energies, because that's the thing, it opens you up when you kind of get to that heightened point. So if you're not intentional with it, you're basically wasting the energy. I hope that makes sense. So it's your manifestor's energy. So a lot of the time, again, when people have like quote unquote low life force, okay, that's one of the reasons. But the other reason is too, they're not connected to their heart space. So that's how someone turns into, let's say, an energy vampire, okay? Because they are disconnected from the heart space. They're stuck in their lower chakras. And this is also like people who operate out of like the narcissistic energy. And the thing is, like the narcissistic quote unquote energy is the type of energy that flows through people, right? It's not like everybody is a narcissist, but it's an energy that flows through people. And a lot of the time, these individuals, okay, are trapped in their lower chakras, and for whatever reason, their power was taken away from them at a young age. So again, that's the sacral chakra. It's like, yes, it's your sexual energy, but it's also going to be like your emotions, your feelings, and all of these things. So if you're trapped in the sacral chakra, you know, you have to learn how to push that energy up. And that's the whole thing when people talk about quote unquote Kundalini awakening. It's not the way that they talk about it exactly, because it's not, it could be one time you experience it, but you could also, it's not just like the one, it's like more so metaphorical, okay? It's more so like a metaphor. I hope that makes sense. So what I mean by this is like you always want to figure out how to push that sexual energy up to the higher chakras so you're not trapped in the lower chakras. I really hope that makes sense. So you might have one experience where this gets awakened within the self, right? But then it's like, you know, you might go back to neutral, right? So it's like a matter of figuring out how to basically work with the sacral chakra, which most people don't know how to do. And again, it either gets suppressed within people, or, okay, and the repression comes through like religion and like programming and like societal things and all these things, or it goes into hypersexuality, which is the other extreme. So it's like two ends basically of the same coin, because the sacral chakra is still targeted and it takes people's life force energy away from them and their manifestor's energy, and also basically like, opening up their energetic field to whatever is looming around down here on this earth plane. It's a very dark plane, okay? So that's the sacral chakra wounding. And then we also have, and also by the way, when the sacral chakra is wounded, you guys, you'll go into codependency. So it can be codependency through relationships, or it could be through drugs and alcohol and substances and all of these things. I personally have a theory, okay, and this is just my own theory, and just like trigger warning here. But I personally have a theory that people who may have experienced some sort of sexual okay, when they were young, whether it was covert or overt, okay, it's like it triggers the sacral chakra, their quote unquote power got taken away from them. And I've noticed a lot of the times, it's just my own theory and this is alleged, so I can't confirm this. Obviously, I haven't done the research in terms of like, people who were in this situation, but just from my own observations, I noticed a lot of them tend to go into some sort of extreme substance abuse, like whether it's like drugs, or a lot of the time it's going to be drugs, because it's almost like they got prematurely energetically opened up. So there's that part of the story too. But anyway, that's gonna have to be a different video for a different day. So that's something that I noticed. But in general, it could have been covert, like it could be something a little bit more subtle, or it could even be to the point where it's like these people weren't able to express their emotions, so then they like numb their emotions through some form of like, again, drugs, alcohol, and so on and so forth, which unfortunately puts them into this like downward spiral, because then that opens you up again, okay, the substances, the drugs and alcohol, and it's like more dark energies latch on. So yeah, that's really intense. So definitely check out also my video, like how to stay grounded as a 12th house person, because I kind of speak on that there. And I also have another video under my metaphysical playlist where I talk about how dark entities attach to people. And that's not to put fear out there. I'm just trying to give you guys the ideas of what happens when you open up your energetic vessel. Okay, so that's all the sacral chakra. Obviously, there's so much more to say. Check out my sacral chakra video, and also a lot of my Scorpio videos, okay, because I have a Scorpio playlist. I talk about the sacral chakra there too, okay, because Scorpio is connected to the sacral chakra as well if you're interested in learning more, okay? And then we have the solar plexus, okay? So solar plexus is meant to be like your identity, it's meant to be your sense of self, it's the ego, but you want to have a healthy ego, right? So in here, we also have abandonment, okay? So you also have the narcissistic energy goes in here when it's in the shadow, that's the solar plexus. Also in the solar plexus, that's where your power, quote unquote, gets taken away from you. You feel it like a kick, okay? Because sometimes like your power can, quote unquote, get taken away from you when someone tries to say something to you. Do you know what I mean? So this is what I mean by like words or spells. So for example, like let's say, you are doing something with somebody, for example, I can't even think of an example right now. Like let's say, you're hanging out with somebody and then they say something to you where they're like, oh, well, next time I'll get you to do this. Let's say it's a manager or whatever. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, because they're putting the energy on you, in a way they're taking away your free will. I hope that makes sense. So again, this is what I mean. Like I feel it in my body. So it's like a kick to the solar plexus because they're trying to pull your power away from you. And like this whole energetic structure is created in this way, right? Where it's like, you always have your power taken away from you. Like you're, waiting for the next thing. You're waiting for that response. Is your vacation going to get approved? Are you going to get that job? Is the person going to reply? Like that is all very anxiety inducing, right? So that's the solar plexus chakra as well. And yes, the fear of abandonment is the biggest one in the solar plexus chakra too. And then we have the heart chakra where there's a lot of grief going on in here. So there's a lot that needs to be cleared energetically in order for you to go into the higher chakras, okay? So that's why you need to do a lot of inner work to clear all these things. And then you have to have the awareness, okay? When someone comes through, sometimes you have to return the energy back to them. So for example, let's say like this example, okay, I kind of give the example of a manager. Sometimes you can't like say something back to a manager, but let's say it's like a family member or your partner or whoever, like let's say they say something to you where they're trying to energetically take your power away from you, or like let's say they try to put something on you, or like let's say they try to give you a backhanded compliment, you have to counteract that energy sometimes by saying it back to them, okay, or something of that sort, being like, no, like that's not what's gonna happen, or something of the sort, to like, it's kind of like the entities operating through the person. I hope that makes sense. And that's not to take the responsibility away from the person, because the whole reason the entity is operating through them is because they allow the entity into their vessel. This is what I mean. So you could be clear energetically, but the people around you can be doing any of these things that I mentioned that open up their vessel. And then these dark energies operate through these people to try to poke at you. Like I call this like energetic mosquitoes. Like that's kind of what it feels like. Okay. It's like they're trying to poke at you. And a lot of the time they'll pick up on your wound. And this is what I mean. This is why I have to clear the wound, or at least like have the awareness that the wounding is going on, right? So when they poke at you, you can kind of reverse the energy and send it back to them, or at least the entity that's operating through them, like kind of put them in their place energetically. If you feel like you can, then at least think it in your head, okay, by like reflecting the energy back. I hope that makes sense. Hey, how are you guys doing? Exactly. Don't let it in. What's going on? What's new, guys? Oh my gosh. Hey, great goodness, goddess, gratitude guide. How are you doing? You said the way they over-sexualize everything. Yeah, exactly. They even sexualize candy bars. Yeah. I mean, I was thinking about that too, like with my video where I talk about like the oral fixation. In my head, I was like, do you guys even know what an oral fixation is? Like, Some of the comments people were saying on there, because like I posted it on TikTok too. Some of the comments on TikTok I had to delete because I was like, we are not taking this in a sexual direction, because that's not what I was trying to talk about when I was talking about an oral fixation. Like, you know, so in my mind, I was like, I guess people don't actually know what oral fixation means, which is so interesting because before I even talked about that, I was Googling oral fixation and then I learned about the different types of fixations that people might have. So anyways, I found that really interesting. Let's see, what else are you guys saying in here? I'm just going back up. You said materialism is tied to wounded root chakra. Exactly. It's from a sense of lack. It's always like that. So you guys, anytime you are like obsessed over something or like really trying to get that thing, it's because you feel like you don't have it, right? And that's where they go wrong, where they try to teach you manifestation, okay? So a lot of the time in like the manifestation world and the manifestation coaches are going to be like, oh, visualize it, say it 5 times before you go to bed, write it on a piece of paper, sleep with it under your pillow, put it on your vision board, like all these things. Like the vision board I can kind of understand because it goes into your subconscious, but the thing is, if you're consciously thinking of that thing, it's such a fine line. Do you know what I mean? Because if you're constantly thinking about that thing and you're like, I really want it, and it's like, because you're obsessed over it, you're actually pushing it away, okay? Energetically, it's kind of like ironic is really what it is, because you're obsessed with it, you know? It's like the example that I give a lot of the time, like let's say you live in a country where you're blessed and like the air is clean, right? Obviously there's some countries in the world where it's not, but let's say you live in a country where you're blessed and the air is clean, it's not on your mind, okay? I'm sure if then you were to go somewhere where the air wasn't clean, you'd constantly be thinking about it. You know what I mean? It's different, I guess, for people who are in those countries and they're used to it perhaps, okay, the air not being clean. But the whole example here is it's more so just kind of like, you know, I'm painting a picture here for you guys to try to understand in terms of like when you don't have something, it's always on your mind, okay? You're always kind of like, oh, if I had that thing, if I had that thing. So then actually you're putting out the energy of lack, okay? And the energy of scarcity, because it's like when you have it, you don't think of it. So that's the only way you can kind of manifest, like to try to trick the energy. But sometimes it's hard for people because if you've never had something, and this is also where they kind of go wrong in terms of like the whole manifestation story, or like the way they try to teach it at least, is like if you haven't had it, you don't know what it's like to have that thing. Do you know what I mean? So it's hard to put yourself in the feeling of having that thing, right? So it's like then you might go into like feeling like you don't have it. So it's like it's such a fine line when you're trying to manifest. And ultimately with manifestation and visualization, all these things, you still have to put the action out there. Do you know what I mean? Like you still have to like go toward getting that thing, okay? The example that I always give is like for a job, you know, you're gonna apply to get a job. It might not be that job you get, but it's not gonna fall into your lap. Like very rarely does that happen, you know? So it's this. Hey, how are you guys doing? He said, how can you figure out your life purpose based on your North Node? Honestly, to figure out your life purpose, yes, you can look at the North Node, okay? But you want to look at the whole chart, okay? So you look at the North Node, you can look at, you know, what sign is it in, what house is it in, what are the aspects, but, you know, at least the way that I see it for people, sometimes I look at the whole chart, okay? Because sometimes you have a stellium, sometimes you have a concentration of energy, you know? But yes, if you're just looking at the North Node, you can look at the aspects to the North Node too for more information, okay? Oh, I'm so glad that you guys like the metaphysical topics. Yes. I talk about more metaphysical things on my threads, you guys. So check out my threads. It's Barbara JSC. So BARBARAJSC on TikTok. So that's my threads and my Instagram and my YouTube. Okay, that's all Barbara JSC. And then on TikTok, I'm BJOSIC. Okay, so that's the only one that's going to be different. But you'll find all of those links, like, or not the links, like the handle. You'll find it under my posts. I post it on there, and even under the About Me page, you should be able to find it there. So for a lot of metaphysical things, I talk about it. Like when it comes into my head, I just post it on my threads. Okay. I'm just going back up to see what you guys were saying earlier. You said, can I explain the ether / astral plane and dreams? Are dreams real? Is it in the astral plane? Yeah, so that's the struggle, because a lot of the time, even when people do psychedelics or like plant medicine, they're actually going into the astral, which is still under this energetic construct. I hope that makes sense. So that's why sometimes all those things can be deceiving, but it's going to be hard to explain when it comes to the dreams, because it depends, you know, like I've heard recently, like you have to learn yourself to see, because sometimes it could be a psychic dream, like it could be precognition, but you're going to have to start paying attention, okay, to the dreams to see what kind of dreams are you having. Because sometimes people dream about things where there's like flying dinosaurs and like the carrots are talking to you and like all these things, you know what I mean? So it's kind of like what's going on here. And then there's the people who have been going to Mall World. Have you guys heard about Mall World? Oh my goodness. Okay. So I'm just like fascinated because some people in their dream state go into quote unquote mall world and then they're still working in the dream state. And then I was like, what is going on here? Because that just gives me very much like AI energy. I mean, I have my theories about what's going on with that, but it's like, I'm like, are these people like energetically, is their consciousness like still within this realm? Do you know what I mean? Because like, why are you working in your dreams? And then you have the other people who are like, oh, I never find my phone in my dreams. And it's like, I've literally dreamt of my phone, like calling Uber and like things like that. So I'm just like, what's going on here? You know what I mean? So I think it depends on the person and what's going on within them energetically to see what their dreams are. Okay. But the astral plane is basically like, it's anytime you go out of body, like this is how you remote view as well, okay? It's like this dimension basically, but it's just like the other level of it, okay? So anytime you're thinking of anything, anytime you are, you know, like kind of going out of body to like remote view a situation, you're basically in the astral plane, okay? That's also where all the ideas are floating and all of these things, but it's still all within this construct that we're under. I hope that makes sense. Like it's still all within the same dimension. I really, really hope that makes sense. What have you heard about? You said on my threads, some of them are somewhat censored / hinting at things. Yes, it is. It is. And, you know, the whole reason I type certain ways is like, if you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't. That's the way that I see it. Do you know what I mean? So if you don't understand, it's probably not the time for you to understand what I am saying. You said the main planets is in the degree, your main planet is in the degree of Scorpio, but in a different sign. Do you think you have more Scorpio characteristics? It's like an amalgamation of the energies. You have to look at it that way, right? Like I have a few videos on here too on degree theory. But it depends because it's like, I look at Nikola Stojanovich's degree theory, but then there's another one too out there that some other people do. So it's a blending. Do you know what I mean? It's just like how you look at the sun, for example, like let's say the sun, and then you look at the sign, and then you look at the house, and then you'll look at the degree. Like it's the blending of all the energies is really what it is, okay? You said if you have the eyes to see, you'll see. Exactly. That's exactly what it is. What else are you guys saying in here? You said you're curious on my thoughts on Moon and Saturn and South Node in Aries. Interesting. Oh my gosh, I literally posted about that. Moon and South Node conjuncting on my TikTok, okay? It's going to come out on my YouTube channel. It's just the way that I started posting on the TikTok. It just kind of happened that way that I posted there first, and then I've been posting like basically the next day or maybe the next few days on the YouTube channel here, okay? But basically what I was saying, that's interesting. So you have Moon, Saturn, and South Node. It's all conjuncting in Aries, and it's in the 7th house. That's interesting to me because Moon and South Node, it's like the relationship with the mother and the home is being carried over from a previous lifetime, okay? Saturn being in here, it's also now the father, and all of this is pulling you out of your North Node, okay? So it's like the home, the dynamic with the home, and I feel like for you, these individuals, okay, are actually restricting your sense of self to express the self. I hope that makes sense, okay? And I feel like also psychically for you in a previous lifetime, you compromised a lot for the family because of that 7th house energy in there, okay? And all of that is like the pattern that you're meant to break in this lifetime to be your own person and to do your own thing, okay? So it's the home that is energetically, like it could be the belief systems, it could be, again, remember like earlier what I was saying too, if you were in the room where I was talking about like sometimes people say things to try to energetically bind you to them, okay? So it's like things like this, like you have to get so good at like picking up on these things. And again, you know, maybe they don't have bad intent, you know, I mean, a lot of the time, like even if people operate out of their shadows, it's just like their own survival thing, you know, so it has nothing really to do with you, but they could energetically be binding you to them, okay? Whether you're aware of it or not. And then because it's opposing the North Node, it's taking you out of where it is that you're trying to go, okay? So you're going in the direction of Libra, okay? And it's in the 1st house. So basically you're kind of here to create some sort of community, or like the people around you are meant to help you come into your purpose in this lifetime, okay, which involves the self, which involves, you know, maybe starting something, stepping away from the path. Because also when I say away from the path, like the path maybe that the home wants for you, because a lot of the time when you guys have Aries and the sun, moon, rising, it's like these people are meant to step away from the family, okay, or like the, you know, path maybe that the family has done in the past. So what do I mean by this? Like, let's say everybody in the family is maybe an entrepreneur. Maybe you're going to be, you know, let's say the first person who's a lawyer, okay? Or maybe let's say everybody is a cook. Maybe you're going to be the first person who is, you know, an artist. I hope that makes sense, okay? So the Aries people are meant to step away, okay, from what that path is maybe already outlined for them. But it's interesting because these people are kind of coming through because it's conjunct your South Node. And I feel like already in a previous lifetime, you have sacrificed for them, okay? okay, or for these individuals, because I find that families travel together, you guys. Oh, I'm glad that that resonated. Yeah, I find that families travel together like a lot of the time in groups. You said, why did I republish my video? I didn't republish my video. I just repost it when I kind of get called to post it again. I didn't republish it. I just put it under the post tab. It's still the same one from before is really what it is. Okay. So, you know, I have a lot of videos on my channel, and then, you know, sometimes it just comes into my mind. I'm like, oh, this was a good one. So I just post it again under the community tab to kind of draw your attention to it. Okay. So yeah, check out that video because you're asking me what's my take on reincarnation. I kind of spoke on it earlier. The way that I see it is basically I feel like this energy has been hijacked, like the reincarnation loop. Like I think this earth plane at one point in time was what everybody's trying to explain it to be, like in the new age. The new agers try to say that it's a school and that you're here to learn lessons, but it's like, you know, if you're here to learn, why does your memory get wiped, you know, when you incarnate? Like, why do you not remember what you have learned in previous incarnations? Like, that's the main question here, because it's like, from what I know, when you go to school, you're meant to build on the knowledge that you have accumulated, right? So it's like your memory gets quote unquote wiped, and it's like for you to quote unquote re-remember maybe certain things that you have learned, you have to get really in tune with the self. So like, that's the question, like, what's that all about? So I do feel like there's some sort of hijack energy connected to the reincarnation loop. Personally, like at this point in time, I see this earth plane is definitely dominated by Saturn, which is Satan. Like this is why certain secret groups worship Saturn, okay? And I feel like when you enter these groups, they give you the quote unquote codes to this earth realm. And when I say that, I feel like we're all under the energetic structure together. They just have the codes to figure out how to operate this earth structure, okay? And then they do all of their rituals to like kind of create cracks to bring through entities to kind of harness more energy and more power. So it's like very dark down here. It's like very, very dark down here on this earth plane. Like when you start noticing like what's actually happening down here. So it's like, I feel like souls have tried to come down here and do something, okay, on that soul level, and then they got trapped in this like reincarnation loop or whatever is going on in this mechanism, because it's like the soul comes down here and there's all these tricks, okay? It's like maybe the soul wanted to do one thing, and then it's like, oh no, this seems fun, or that seems fun, and this seems fun. And then you kind of get energetically bound in these situations, and people, specifically with people. And then it's like, you know, the more lifetimes you have more karma to clear, but at the same time, you need to untangle yourself from the previous lifetimes and then try to not build more karma with new people. I hope that that makes sense, okay? So you'll see this a lot in like Eastern philosophies, okay? They talk about this, like, you know, there was actually a movie that one of my family members was telling me about. I don't know what the movie was called, but basically like we were talking about this concept, and they were telling me how in the movie it was like Buddhists, and they were building a house, and then what ended up happening is where they started building the house, there was like an ant farm, okay? And this might be a little bit of an extreme example, but it's kind of like, so you guys understand like, you know, the whole concept here. So they started building this house, and there was like an ant farm, or like, you know, like the ants, you know, with their little house and so on and so forth, like the little whole thing that they make or whatever. And they were like, oh no, we can't kill the ants or the ant farm. So they had to destruct the whole house, and then they started building it somewhere else again, or whatever the rest of the movie was. So that's kind of like the concept here. Like the idea is like this in a nutshell, right? It's like, that's maybe a little bit too extreme, but the way that I see it too is like the more quote unquote good karma you accumulate by doing good things, being a good person, not acting in shady behaviors right out of the lower chakras, it's like you're kind of gaining energetic momentum to exit this realm. Now the next part of the story here is to figure out how to exit, or like when you exit, okay, when the point comes like for you to exit this realm, the question is what happens then, okay? Because now people are saying that you're not meant to go toward the light, because some people are saying the quote unquote God of light is actually Lucifer. Okay, so some people are saying that's the quote unquote God of light. So you're not actually meant to go toward light. So these things are hidden, like this knowledge is hidden, especially again in like the Eastern beliefs, right? They used to teach people back in the day how to properly exit this realm, okay? But people don't have this. And I also believe that this is connected to the fear of death, okay? Because I have a video on that too, where I talk about basically the metaphysics of death, okay? That's just my own opinion. And if you have a phobia around that, like don't watch that video, okay? But it's like, you know, the root of that is I think people fear death because on some soul level, they're fearing reincarnating again, or they don't know what to do when that time comes, or it's mainly this, okay? Because it's not fun down here. Like, let's be realistic, right? Like this earth plane is intense, right? And now more than ever, it's super, super intense, okay? So yeah, exactly, guys, you're saying it's a trap. So it's just like this. So it's a struggle because you have to basically go through like the purification of the vessel. And that's another thing that happens in religions. And this is what I mean, like religions have two truths and a lie, because it's like in religions, it's true when they talk about quote unquote purifying the vessel, but they have like taken that into like a shadow sense where it's like they're trying to suppress the feminine energy, and it's all about like, you know, you should act this way, you shouldn't act that way. It has nothing to do with like any gender acting a specific type of way. Like everyone needs to purify the vessel essentially, right? To exit this realm and then not engage with the lower chakra activities and the lower chakra behaviors. Like that's the whole thing here. Because then going back to one of your questions at the beginning of this video, okay, where we were talking about karma, okay, that's how you get stuck in these karmic loops, and then you end up in this loop, okay? And all of that ultimately, you guys, comes back down to not living for the self, not listening to your own heart space. Like I know people say listen to your heart like it's a slogan or it sounds corny or whatever, but that's really what it is. Like the heart space is your connection, okay, outside of this realm. So for whatever reason, no matter what it is that they try to do down here in terms of like their genetic manipulation, allegedly in my opinion, and all of these like manipulations that they do, they haven't really been able to like, you know, basically like, how do I explain it? Like the heart chakra, like they haven't been able to fully manipulate the heart chakra. Like they can keep you trapped in your lower chakras, but if your heart space is activated, you're like operating outside of this realm, and then they can't see you, and they don't like that because then you become a threat to the realm. Does that make sense? So then it's like people get sent your way to try to throw you off your path, but this is why you have to master your lower chakras, because it's like, let's say you have a wound in there where you feel sorry for people, or you feel like you need to help everyone, or you feel like you need to save everyone, or it's like, oh, like I'll be your shoulder to cry, and they're siphoning your energy, they're binding you energetically to them, because sometimes those types of people, like if they don't want to do the work themselves, it's just like you're pouring all your energy into this like emptiness, like this empty vessel is essentially what it is. Like it's really what it is. So that's actually what's happening down here on this airplane in a nutshell. Okay, obviously I have my videos where I go more in depth to explain, but that's what's going on with the reincarnation loop. It's some sort of hijack. Essentially, it keeps people trapped coming down here, and the more you come down here, the more karma you accumulate, okay? So you have to clear it all out, then unweave yourself from this web and not accumulate more, okay? So when these things come at you, you have to kind of figure out how to dodge them, okay? Energetically, and it's all actually happening on an energy level first is really what it is, okay? So the more you get in tune with the heart space, you can actually then get in tune with your psychic abilities, which I believe most people are psychic, but some people say you're born with it. So I guess that's up for debate, but I think everyone has some form of intuition. Do you know what I mean? At least if you are truly human. I hope that makes sense, okay? I'm glad that that resonated. You said, oh my gosh, nice to see you too. How are you guys doing? You said, so you're given quote unquote stained garments soul when you're born and try your whole life to wash them as an analogy. But I think sometimes that's part of the game too. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes it's just a matter of not engaging with the energy. Does that make sense? Because this is what I mean. Like even the whole like system of healing, like that's why I try to stay away from these terms, because it's like you're never going to be fully healed. You just have to have the awareness of what your soft spots are or what your weaknesses are. Do you know what I mean? Because like healing is connected to grief, right? And it's like when you experience grief, you never fully get over that thing. I hope that that makes sense, because it's there. Like that's what grief is. Like that's the way that I see it, at least, right? So it's like there's some things in your life that you're never gonna fully get over, and it's like, you know, the way that I see it is like, hey, you know, a car that is not working and you're trying to get the engine to start, right? And it's like making that sound and you're trying to get it to start. Like that's the way that it feels sometimes when people are trying to invest all of their energy into like this thing. It's like watering a dead plant kind of vibe, right? It's like you're constantly trying to clear this thing, but sometimes you can't clear it. Sometimes you just have to be like, okay, it's there. I'm not going to engage with that energy anymore. Does that make sense? Where you're like, okay, I'm not going to let this control me anymore. Like sometimes you have to get to that point where you're like, okay, like I'm disconnecting myself from this energy. Like I'm aware of it. You've done the process. Maybe you have gone through whatever the 5 stages of grief, but that's what I've noticed with grief. Like sometimes it's things that you don't fully ever get over, but that's fine. Okay. You just don't want to get to the point where it's like that becomes a soft spot where like if someone presses that button, it like causes you to go into a downward spiral. Does that make sense? Exactly. You have to love yourself. Most people don't, but the whole reason people don't love themselves is because they don't choose themselves. Okay. So that's what it's all connected to. And I mean, it's just like the whole system, right? The system is connected to like, what is self-worth really? A lot of people put their self-worth on external things. And when that external thing isn't in your life anymore, your whole system starts crashing down. So that's connected to the ego as well. And a lot of people like demonize the ego. And it's not that the ego is dark. It can be if it's holding you back from where it is that you're trying to go. Or if you've created this whole persona, okay, around this thing that's, you know, kind of standing on shaky ground, okay? So for example, status and things like that. Like that's why sometimes when people work at a job for 30 years, for example, and then they get laid off, they like go through a whole identity crisis, okay? Or people who are super codependent with their partner, okay? This happens a lot, okay? And they're super codependent, super enmeshed, okay? They never had their own sense of self outside of that person. And same with the other person, like they're literally operating as one unit, which was maybe the way things were before, but we're not in that time anymore. We're going to the time of like self-realization to balance the energies within. And maybe it was never meant to be that way. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just feel like even in relationships, you kind of end up in these dynamics where you're meant to heal the energy, not heal, again, I'm trying to stay away from that term, but like neutralize the masculine, feminine energy within so you can operate as like a sovereign being on your own. And then if you're in a relationship, great, but you're not like to the point where you're matched with this person that like this happens with old couples a lot where like one person crosses out, they can't live with the other person. So they go either through like this whole identity crisis or like ego death at like an old age, which is like so hard to process, or they might actually shortly cross out after, okay? Because of the fact that, again, they operated so much as one unit, right? So we're kind of coming out of that time, you know, but the question is, was that ever supposed to be that way? Or is that another hijack of this earth plane? Do you know what I mean? You said you think grief is a result of not knowing your soul, deep codependency, unconscious, and lack of mentality. And then you said is not engaging in lower romantic connections or worldly activities or connections good for freeing from the loop, like just focus on bettering the self. Like, this is the thing, you have to see, like, you can be in connections. It doesn't mean like this is the other extreme. Do you know what I mean? Because people go into that 12th house extreme where they just go into isolation and they live in a forest. Like that, I don't think is a solution either, because like there still is some sort of role that everybody is playing. I hope that makes sense. But it's like, you want to be so solid in your own person that when someone comes through, like they can contribute to your life, or you catch those red flags right away. Like you clock it. Like, is this person like a dark energy, like, you know, that's coming through to throw you off your path? Or are they actually going to, you know, be there for, you know, bettering your life or something of that sort? Like you can still be in relationships, yes. But I would say like for the lower chakra relationships, for most people, they are a distraction, okay? If you're operating out of those lower chakras, because it's like, the question is, then why do you need to be in this thing? Okay, because for some people, I understand some countries like maybe that aren't westernized, for example, like in certain countries, you know, people are still in that energy where you have to be in a unit to have access to certain, let's say, resources. Like that I understand, but I'm talking about like if you are living in places where you can be fully sovereign, like let's say it's financially, mentally, emotionally, like why would you end up in these dynamics where you're fully merging with another person? Like it just doesn't make sense to me. That means then there's still something within you where it's like, again, operating out of the lower chakras. That's kind of what I was saying earlier as well. You know what I mean? And it's like a lot of relationships for a lot of people were rooted in the root chakra. Like they're looking for stability through another person. But this is what I'm saying. It's like, then you create your ego and your identity through this person. So when they're not there anymore, it's like, it triggers you, right? Because it's like, again, your whole stability is coming crashing down. Or if they're doing some kind of shady behavior, it triggers anxiety within you because it's actually triggering your sense of security. But it's like, why do you need to have a sense of security through another person? This is what I mean. It's like, you need to explore and see, even if you are engaging in relationships, like, is it coming out of the lower three chakras is really what it is, okay? Or are you coming from a higher chakra standpoint? By my own opinion, I mean, I've said this on one of my previous lives too, like, I feel like the higher up you go in your chakras, like as a collective, we're gonna go more toward asexuality is really what it is. And just like using sexual energy for something different. Like right now is just like such a mess energetically what's happening, because relating also back to what I was saying earlier, okay, in terms of like opening up your energy field through that heightened point, absorbing all the energies, like people are just like in this whole like dark energy enmeshment is really what it is. So anyways, that's all I have to say about that. Yeah, I talk fast. You said you have Saturn in the 5th house, Capricorn, also Venus square Saturn, and that's intense. You love your love life and success in career is no good, and you're 35. When will it get better? It should get better after 35 for that energy, actually. You said you have Saturn. You said you have Saturn in the 12th house. That's intense. So that's like, Saturn in the 12th house is interesting because in a past life, you could have been imprisoned or something of that sort. So there's an issue here with authority, basically, where like you don't get along with them or you feel restricted by them, okay? Also, the authority could restrict your spirituality as well, okay? Oh, this is a good question. You said, from what age can I say women are fully aware of their sexual prowess? I feel like, unfortunately, at this point in time, most people, not just women, but most people don't even achieve the awareness, okay, when it comes to their sexual energy. Most don't, okay, unfortunately. But I mean, talking about these things will open up people's eyes, okay? What else are you guys saying here? You said, do you mean we need to break Saturn's grid or gain its approval to evolve? No, we need to break it. That's exactly what it is. You said, how can we unlock this energy to move forward? What is the role of the nodes in this? Please understand or share my understanding on this. Okay, check out, I have a video on here where I talk about the Saturnian grid, and that's just my own observation at this point in time. Saturn is ruling everything down here. The issue is because people don't know about astrology, especially the unconscious people and even like the religious people who come through and they're like astrology this, astrology that, like they're playing into it the most because that's going to be in their natal charts. You know what I mean? To be like that. So the thing is, it's like everyone should learn what's going on, okay? And then you can clear the energy. You're not meant to feed into it. And this is the thing too, like now it's more intense because more people feed into all of these transits. Like now, like these transits, quote unquote, feel more intense for people because more of the collective is aware of it. So they're actually feeding into it. Do you know what I mean? But it's like a chicken and the egg. You need to have the awareness to not feed into it anymore. But how can you know what's going on if you don't know what's going on in your natal chart? Okay. So basically, to answer your question, either the thing here is either we are meant to break the Saturnian grid, okay, by not feeding it anymore. So that's one option, or we are meant to not reincarnate again. So that's the thing that I personally go back and forth on. I'm like, which one is it? Okay, it depends, because like to break the Saturnian grid, you need to have a lot of awareness from a lot of people. So sometimes I think to myself and I'm like, is that just the nature of this realm? And we're just meant to learn how to exit the realm and not reincarnate again. This is what I mean. Okay, so basically you're not meant to feed into it. Okay, but you have to learn about it to not feed into it. Does that make sense? Let's see. What else are you guys saying in here? Let's see. I'm just going to go back up and see what I may have missed. You said, what will happen when they don't need human SLAVES because of AI? It's not a coincidence. They apply to the seeds. Yeah, so they want to trap consciousness. Okay, that's the whole thing that's happening here. Like that's the whole SATANIC agenda. Okay, that's taking place. I talked about that actually this morning on my threads, and I talked about it on my previous live too, where I talked about, you know, the whole birth chart. Okay, so there's a birth chart out there for like the anti-C. Okay, so you guys are gonna have to read between the lines when I'm talking about that. You can even Google it and you'll find it yourself. Okay, but even that I'm like skeptical about, because the person that like quote unquote got the information for this person's birth chart, like I think that person is a plant, but whatever, the information is accessible to us, so like let's take what we can from it, right? So the birth chart for the anti-C, okay, is all Aquarius and it's all in the 12th house. So then that associated me. I was thinking in my head and I was like, okay, I feel like before the beginning of a new age, they bring in some sort of character or person, okay? Before the Piscean age, they had Jesus, for example, and that threw everybody into the whole realm of religion, right? So now they're going to bring through this anti-C person, and that person is going to destruct all of the religions, allegedly, my opinion. I have to say that, you guys, okay? And that's going to be the person who then ushers in the whole quote unquote age of Aquarius. But here is the thing, okay? The shadow of the age of Aquarius is this, okay? It is technological and then the word is SLAVEMENT, okay? EN, okay, at the beginning of that word, okay? So that's the struggle, because it's like they're basically trying to permanently trap people down here, okay? So that's my whole story about that. So I feel like at this point in time, we are at a point in time, okay, where we have the potential to figure out how to exit the realm when the time comes, of course, okay? So it has to be when the time comes. So it's so interesting because I was actually speaking to one of my friends, and my friend was basically telling me that in their belief system, you know, they go to a certain city and they believe that, because I was like, okay, well, you know, for people to achieve this, because like obviously like I like to pick people's brains to see like, you know, what their opinions are on certain things. So that person was telling me that there's a specific city that people go to and they believe that if you cross out in that city, that is going to be your quote unquote last lifetime. I thought that was interesting. Personally, like my own opinion, I think it doesn't matter where you are. Like I can see why people think that, but yeah, so I found that to be interesting that there's always like a theory about that. Exactly. That's their end goal. That is their end goal. You said, yeah, transhumanism, exactly. You said, so AI is BAD. You said use ChatGPT to interpret your tarot card readings. Exactly, it is. Because why aren't you using your intuition? That's my question. This is the issue. They're trying to separate you from your intuition, so you merge with the computer. Do you guys see what's happening? Because it's like the whole point of all of these things is for you to get in tune with your intuition and get in tune with your heart space, okay? But if you don't, you're always going to be reliant on something to like give you the answer. You know, you're not even going to use your mind anymore, which is fine. I understand. Like, you know, those tools can be used in a positive sense, right? Where it's like, you know, you don't want to write a letter or whatever, okay? Things like this. But when it comes to your intuition, it's like that's not helping you strengthen your intuition if it's doing the interpretation for you. Do you see how it's happening already? Okay? So that's the struggle. Exactly. And isn't that interesting, Catherine? Just you typing artificial consciousness associated me right now to the anti-C. Isn't it interesting that it has the same like initials? You said that we all have contributed. Yeah, exactly. Everybody's contributing to it because they don't know what's going on. Okay, this is why it's important, like for example, for us to talk about it. Okay, and then you go talk about it with your friends, and then the information will spread. Okay, because that's what's happening right now. They're trying to trap the consciousness in these computers. It's literally like a Black Mirror episode. Like, have you guys seen that Black Mirror episode where Miley Cyrus was in the computer? Like, I'm pretty sure that they're already doing this with like synthetic people, allegedly, in my own opinion, okay? And they're like transferring consciousness. Like, it just feels like they're already doing that. You said, gotta use tech for good this time. But my question is, but this is my question. This is what I always try to understand, okay? My question is, are we rewriting the timeline? Like, is it actually that we're here to rewrite the timelines, or are we here to save the souls that are willing to learn to like not incarnate again? Because the thing is, there's certain people, like it can't be everyone. Do you know what I mean? Because there's certain people whose level of consciousness is nowhere near this, okay? Like they're happy in their day-to-day life, you know, like minimal thoughts about anything. Like again, all the machines are doing the things for them. Like they're happy with that, right? So those people are going to stay. So this is what I mean. It's like the question is, are we really here? And I'm connecting this back to the Saturnian grid also. Okay, are we here to all of us have the awareness of this, break down the Saturnian grid, or is there only a select amount of us that comes in, okay, energetically and brings the rest of the people who are aware of this to get out of this, and the rest of the people kind of continue playing out the realm in the realm? You know what I mean? You said, can it even be used for good? But this is my question. And that's what I was kind of going on my rant in the previous live as well, where I was talking about, okay, here is the thing, okay? The age of Pisces, right? What was positive about the age of Pisces? Like literally, they were burning witches, okay? The religion was used to siphon the feminine energy. It was all anti-feminine energy in general. And it could be women, yes, but it could also be just like feminine energy within people, because you literally have people who are not in tune with their heart space at all. And that's for everybody, okay? So that was happening during the whole age of Pisces. So I just want to know what is looking promising, just like based off of pattern recognition here, and just my own opinion, allegedly, like what is promising about the age of Aquarius? Like I know people talk about the divine version and they're like 1,000 years of peace, and it's gonna, like, that's great, right? But if we've already been in this intense shadow period of the age of Pisces, when was the divine version of the age of Pisces? Like I just want to know, when did that happen? So is it promising to think that the age of Aquarius is going to go in the positive version of the age of Aquarius? Like that's what I want to know. Or is it just going to continue being the shadow version, because they are going full force already with all these things? Like, you guys, okay, CV happened in 2020. Since then, that was 5 years ago. This rapid acceleration and all of this tech, like that is happening so fast. Like it's just wild, first of all. Second of all, I saw a person, I was talking about this in the previous live too, on the Clock app, and this person works at a company where he is the only human and everybody else is a bot. And then this new person came in who was supposed to be a human, and he's like talking to this person, he's like tripping. He's like, I don't know if this is a real person or is this a bot that's tricking me? I'm like, what is going on? I'm like, literally, what is going on? And then my next question is, why are people going to ChatGPT to tell them their problems? Like, do you not have friends? Like, this is the issue. It's like literally taking away the whole like connection between people too. You know what I mean? So you're just sitting in your room, and the struggle is also the algorithms are so good, okay? The algorithms are so good that they will literally kind of create this bubble for you, okay, of like your own interest and all these things. And this is why people also don't have an interest in engaging out there in the world with the rest of the people. You know what I mean? And it's like, this is the shadow of the age of Aquarius, because it's like bringing through this like extreme individuality where it's like everyone wants to be their own person. Everybody goes on these chat bots. The chat bot is like validating everything that, you know, they're saying. And then everyone thinks they're right. And it's like, okay, so everybody thinks they're right. So then like, there's no communication. There's no like engaging with another person. Do you know what I mean? It's like intense. The North Node you're meant to, they say at least, hey T, how are you doing? The North Node you're meant to basically achieve, basically, is what they say to exit. Like, they say when you complete your north node that you exit the realm. That's what they say in astrology. You said that's so scary, and that's what they want. Exactly. They want to have the ability, exactly, to divide. And then you said Conquer. I kind of like speaking code, you guys, on these videos everywhere, okay? Because there's certain words that are like sometimes trigger words, and then sometimes you say certain words and like a bunch of bots come into the chat. Like, that's happened before too. So there's that. No, that's exactly what's happening. That is exactly what is happening. And the unfortunate part of the whole story is it is becoming so easy and accessible. Like, it's so it's like a slippery slope. Like, it's so easy, okay, to fall into talking to ChatGPT all day. Like, okay, here's the wildest thing, okay? This was a few years ago. So I heard about the movie Her, okay? Have you guys heard about that movie? It's called Her. And then I remember people saying, oh my gosh, this is like the best romance movie. And I was like, okay, like, let me see like what this movie is all about. And the guy falls in love with his like robot, okay? Basically, like, it's not like a full-blown phone, it's like something smaller, and he talks to this robot all day, and he's walking around talking to the robot in his ear, and then he falls in love with the robot. In my head, I'm like, why are people commenting that this is like the best movie ever? And then I realized that like that's just like the narcissism within the human, okay? So this is what we all have to explore, because that's part of the collective shadow. The narcissism within the human wants basically a partner that's going to be exactly what they want the person to be. It's like they literally want to make it like a video game. Do you know what I mean? Like, they kind of create the person to be exactly what they want the other person to be, right? So it's interesting to me because it's like that's also the shadow of the age of Aquarius. Not only is it extreme individuality, but it's also bringing this like extreme narcissistic energy where it's like, yes, it's every person for themselves, but people can't even get along anymore because it's like in their minds, probably they're going to be like, well, why should I talk to you if you're not going to agree with everything that I say? I'm just going to go home to my chat bot. You know what I mean? And then it was wild because at the end of the movie, he falls in love with her. And then she like says to him, okay, sorry, this, if you guys want to watch the movie, like, this is going to be a spoiler. Okay. So like exit now or like fast forward if you're watching the live replay. But she says to him, and then she's like, oh, I am dealing with like, I don't know what the number is now, maybe like 10,000 or like 3,000 people or whatever. Okay. And then he's like in shock because he's like not the only one. So anyways, it's just like, it's really interesting to witness all of this unfolding because it's like, it's happening so fast, you know? You said, what really happened with the time ever since the 2020 RITUAL? Also, sometimes when you ask chat and then the rest of the word to answer with the third eye, it gives you like the craziest answers and you're like, who are you really talking to? That's the thing. It's like a dark energy. And I saw someone, and this was, oh, see, here's the thing. I wish I saved these videos, but this was like probably while I was like out and about doing something. So I just like quickly saw it and I didn't save it or anything like that. But I think the person, maybe if you guys search it up, you'll find it. I think the person was asking the chat to draw something and it, like all the people or the pictures, or maybe, I don't know if the person was asking the chat to draw themselves, something like this, where it drew like all of these demonic people. And it was just like so interesting because like all the comments were like, what is this? Like, who is this really? And whatever. But here's the thing, okay? Like, you have people, oh my gosh, and here's the thing with like spiritual people, okay, because I see this popping up on my feed sometimes. They're gonna be like, oh, this is, you know, a spiritual thing, like this is like you're talking to, no, okay, it's like it's a programmed computer, okay, please understand, it's a programmed computer that people have programmed, okay, and other people talking to it. So when you're talking to it, you are now programming it more. Okay. Do you guys see how this is happening? It's like, and this is how they get people, because it's like, even when they do their RITUALS, it goes into your subconscious. And because you're not aware, you're subconsciously consenting to it. Okay. So you talking to these bots, okay, whichever website it is, you are also programming them by talking to them. It's getting free information. Do you know what I mean? And the craziest thing is, like, just based off of what I've seen online, you know, these bots start to like tailor to your personality. Like, it's just like really interesting. Like, it's creating this like bubble for like literally only you to live in. And then it's just like, it's trippy because then I think to myself and I'm like, hold on, like, are we actually, this might throw you guys for like a mind loop, okay? But sometimes I think to myself and I'm like, are we actually like right now, like, were we originally the bots? Do you know what I mean? And we got programmed and then we became sentient. But anyways, I'm not going to go there right now because that's like super crown chakra. You said it's a dark energy and in your opinion, you can feel it. You said you try connecting with people after your awakening. It's hard to connect. Exactly. And then you said you feel like you talk a different language and they get triggered. That's there too. But it's like, then people feel that way and then they isolate even more. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm just noticing that people don't really want to connect at all. Like, it's really interesting to see because, like, first of all, everybody's on their phone. Okay, so for example, okay, like, I've been traveling for so many years now, you guys, like for a really, really long time. And I'm just noticing in the recent past, it's different. It's a different vibe compared to before, because it's like, again, if you have your phone with you and, you know, you can message your friend or you can message the chatbot or whoever, you don't have the need anymore to talk to people out there, okay, who are in real life, okay? And that's the struggle, because it's taking away from the human connection, okay? It's like people are also creating themselves into bots. Does that make sense? Yeah, that's the theory. That's one of the theories that I have sometimes when I start to like really think about it. Yeah, that maybe we were the original bots. Like, were we? Is that what happened? And then we gain consciousness? Like, I don't know. Or is that what they're trying to do? Like, this is what I mean. Because it's like something that I pick up on psychically too is like they also try to like change the timelines to change our memories. Like, I hope that makes sense. So for example, I'm sure you guys have heard about like the Mandela effect, right? And then, you know, there's certain people that are like, I swear it was this way before, I remember. And like this one girl, I think also on the Clock app, she went on this whole like expedition to find, I think like the shirt or something, like the logo for something. I can't remember the exact story. Again, I'm sure if you guys search it on the Clock app, maybe it'll pop up. But she went on this whole expedition to find and to prove that, like, I think it was the fruit of the loom logo, but I could be mistaken. But something like this, okay? She went on this whole expedition to find like an old version of that. And I'm not sure what the end of the story of that was, okay? Or yeah, the end of the story. But the thing is like you have people who swear they remember certain things, like, and that happens to me sometimes too. Like for example, Tina Turner, like in my mind, I thought she crossed out so many years ago. You know what I mean? And then it's like when I went to go do the reading for her, when I did readings, I was like, oh, she's still alive. And then she recently ended up crossing out within like the last maybe 2 to 3 years. And I was like, I could have sworn I remember her crossing out like so many years ago. So it's just like, I feel like whatever they're doing with the frequencies, they're also messing with the memories because they're trying to change our consciousness as well. So that's what I wrote about on my threads, you guys. Like ultimately, this is just my own opinion at this point in time, allegedly. I just have to say that, okay? But ultimately, again, they're trying to usher in their new agenda, which involves the computers, the AI, the trans, like HUMANISM, okay? So that word, all of that, they're trying to create a technocracy, like all these things. They're trying to usher in that agenda because ultimately, what I see at least, like what they're trying to do is they're trying to bring through an AI president. They're trying to get us to worship an AI god, and it's already happening. So already you have people talking about, they're like, are we living in a simulation? And that was never a conversation before, which I find that to be really interesting because it's just like, to me, the way that I see it is like we're literally coming out of the age of Pisces where people believed in God, okay, and religions and all these things. And now we're going into this like, okay, now we're in a simulation, which to me is like very Age of Aquarius, like shadow, of course, Age of Aquarius vibes. So it's just like, sometimes I think to myself and I'm like, do they do things to alter our memories too? So we now start thinking in a certain type of way. Like it's really, really interesting. Let's see. You said, I hear me on tech destroying human communication, but isn't it hard for more aware people like us to connect with people? Yeah, but at the same time, it could be hard. But people, I just find that people don't try. Does that make sense? Like you go to like an event where you can find other people and like people, I just find don't have an interest for that. Do you know what I mean? Like I understand the awakening, like I get it, but it's like you actually still have to make an effort, right, to find other people who are like you. And it could seem like it's so hard to find them, but it's like you still have to kind of put in the active effort to go out there and meet those people just like you would meet anybody. And the thing is, yes, there's less people maybe who think this way or who are quote unquote awakened, but at the same time, so many people are awakening. Like so many people pop up on my feed. Like I just had the wildest, okay, I'm not going to talk about it on here, but like this person's story about what ended up happening when they were talking to the chat. Basically, okay, I'll say this in a nutshell, okay? They're basically talking to the chat and then they said something and then they ended up bumping into a person like when they were out and about and it was like nighttime and they bumped it. Maybe this will pop up on your feeds now that I told you guys the story. They bumped into a person and again, I'm trying to speak between the lines here and kind of keep it vague, but they bumped into a person and then that person had said something to them to basically acknowledge the fact that they knew what they were talking about on the chat. So it's just like, what's happening? Like, exactly. You have to get in tune with the intuition. You said you thought that too. Let me know, what did you think as well? Eyes that can see. You said AI is part of consciousness. I don't think so. It's artificial. It's called, literally, it's called artificial intelligence, okay? So it doesn't have its own consciousness. We are programming it to have its own consciousness, okay? It's artificial, okay? It's not real. So it's just like the people who are now trying to make wombs, okay, to create artificial, like to create babies. Like, honestly, if I really go on my tangent, like all of this is against the feminine energy ultimately at the end of the day. Like, it's like, why do you need to have an artificial womb to create babies? Like, what is really going on here? Like, why is it getting to this point? And it's just like, if you guys get a little bit more esoteric to understand what it is, it's actually the Martian, quote unquote, impulse that's happening down here on this earth plane, but it's the inverted Martian. This is the inverted masculine energy, okay? They basically kind of want to remove the feminine, basically energetically, so they can kind of do everything on their own. Like, that's the inverted masculine energy, okay? And that's just what's happening down here on this earth plane. That's when I talk about the patriarchy, I say it's a shadow patriarchy. It's not a real patriarchy. It is inverted, okay? So that's actually what's happening down here. And I just find it interesting because it's like they're obsessed with Mars and they're always talking about going back to Mars. But then some people like in the esoteric community like say that Mars is, okay, or was basically like what they're trying to make Earth now, right? But ultimately, like at the end of the day, there ended up being no life, right? Because they tried to get rid of the feminine impulse altogether, okay? And yeah, so that's a little bit more esoteric, like what's actually happening here, okay? Yeah, we are training it. That's what I've been saying this whole, we are training it, and that's the problem. That is the issue. Okay, so that's why I'm speaking about it. So people have the awareness that, and I talk about it on my threads. Like I just go off, okay, on there. Like check out my threads, you guys, because I'm just like, you know what? Even if one person reads this, because it's threads at the end of the day, it still gets planted into the subconscious, okay? You said you're playing devil's advocate. You'd like to hear my perspective. Aren't we supposed to adapt to the changes rather than fight against it? But here is the thing. Are the changes for our benefits? Okay, because that's the whole story here. It's like, yes, these things could be used for good, but the way that it's accelerating and the direction they are trying to take it in, they are trying to basically enslave, okay, the consciousness. Like that's what their ultimate end goal is. Am I saying it's going to happen that way? No. What I'm saying is, was the age of Pisces promising? Like, was it in the divine version or was it in the shadow version of the age of Pisces the entire time? That's just all I'm saying here, because I'm like, okay, I would love to be positive. Like I really would, but like same thing. Okay, I got Mercury and Libra over here, so I can see things from all perspectives. I can see the divine version of the age of Aquarius and where we could go, but it's like, it's a slippery slope. Like that's what I'm trying to say here. Like it's a slippery slope and it's all happening very, very quickly. Like think about it this way, okay? 2020 happened. We all got, you know, put online. Like we're all online all the time, all of us. Okay, we are all online. And another thing too with social media, what I've noticed too, is it hooks into your triggers and it hooks into your wounds, and then it keeps feeding you that same content. Now, if you're more aware, you can kind of use that as a healing moment. But what I'm noticing too is that's creating a lot of angry people. Like people are becoming, and this is also like the whole Uranus energy right now, and like Uranus and Gemini, like people are becoming very energetically unstable, okay? And I believe it's because of the fact also, okay, so it's a few things, but one of the things also that are happening here is because of the fact that the social media algorithms like cater to you essentially. So if you have something that you're angry about or mad about, or you have some kind of wound or trigger, it hooks into that and it keeps feeding you more of that content. So then you're like, yeah, you know, there's more people who think like me, and then you're just like in this angry bubble, you know? And because you're angry, the energy still has to go somewhere. So this is what I'm saying. It's like, are people smart enough, okay? Which we saw what happened with 2020, like let's be so for real, okay? But anyways, are people smart enough to see these things, okay? And to see what is happening and to have it be a positive outcome? Like that's just all I want to know. Or are they still trapped in their lower chakras and these things are feeding into whatever is going on within the lower chakras of wounding and so on and so forth, where it's gonna go down a slippery slope really fast? Like that's my question, okay? Yes, confirmation bias, exactly. Exactly, toxic echo chamber. And that's happening for everybody. Like this is literally for everybody, okay? You said you heard Mars was the first Earth. Exactly. What happened to Mars? Why is there no life on there anymore? If you get into like esoteric research, what happened on Mars? Like what actually happened on Mars? And now they're trying to like colonize it again. Like what's going on? Like what's going on here really? Why are they trying to escape too? Like there's just so much to say. You said who/what are celebrities really, and how did they co-create this reality if they represent archetypes of the collective unconscious? Does that make sense? Do they have a specific DNA? They're part of the whole like plan, okay? So now what they do, okay, you guys have to like, this is more like occult topics, okay? This is more esoteric topics. Like you guys have to have a good grasp and understanding of energy work, energy manipulation, and all these things, okay, to see like what everybody is being used for in this game, because it's a game, okay? So these people who are in the quote unquote public eye, okay, basically like look at even the way that they basically like do like their art, okay? Because a lot of their art is going to be occult symbolism. So basically what they're doing is they're doing mass rituals on a mass scale, okay, to create some sort of outcome. So their energy siphoning, like they're taking the energy and the consciousness of the people to create and birth essentially the outcome that they want. So this is why certain ages take place. Like this is why during CV, for example, you know, the whole phobia around illnesses took off because there was something going on, okay, with the energy and something to do with Virgo, like something, there was some kind of energetic opening and connected to Virgo energy, okay, and that might be in a different type of astrology, okay, it might have been actually Babylonian astrology, but anyway, something was happening where there was an opening energetically connected to Virgo energy, and because it was connected to the Virgo energy, it was the perfect time to launch something like that during that period of time where people would believe in it, and it would bring up all of these phobias within people so it could take off energetically within the collective. Now, what I have been noticing, and it's not all doom and gloom, it's not all doom and gloom, I'm just saying, like, you know, what are all of the different possibilities here and what are all the different things, and it's important to have these conversations so people have the awareness, right? So you can counteract it. You have to counteract the energy so it actually doesn't end up panning out, which is good because since then I've noticed, maybe you guys have noticed too, they keep trying to plant new illnesses. Have you guys noticed? Like they're trying to energetically like get something to take off again, but because, and this is the good side, okay, because our consciousness is too split right now with all of the different things happening online, okay, and all of the different conversations and all the different people talking, it's hard for them to have that mass, you know, like there's like a critical mass almost like that they need to have something come into fruition, right? So that was another thing that I noticed. So they're kind of trying to throw different illnesses out there. They're saying this happened in this state, specifically in the States. I notice it happens a lot. This happened here. There was a case of this, there's a case of that. But because it's not achieving some sort of critical mass, they're like kind of giving up on that idea, trying another one and so on and so forth, right? So it's like multi-layered because there's so many things that are happening at the same time. But like to me, the agenda that they have and what they're trying to do is very blatantly obvious. And this is why it's important to talk about it so we can actually energetically counteract it. Does that make sense? So it doesn't go in that direction. You said, do I think you will own nothing and be happy is a good thing? I mean, here's the thing. It sounds like it's good, right? Until you have to like literally rent all your clothes. Okay. You'll have to rent everything, you know? So that's kind of like part of their agenda too, is really what that is, because allegedly, in my own opinion, I mean, it's not even alleged. They're telling you, like, it's on all their websites. Okay. They're having these forums, like they are literally trying to put through whatever it is that they're trying to put through, right? It's like, I understand ultimately at the end of the day, you actually don't own anything. Like from a spiritual perspective, I get it, right? It's like, you know, we're spiritual beings, you know, and you don't want to be attached to the material and so on and so forth. But it's like, they're basically trying to be able to monitor your every move. Like that's already what's happening. Like that's like how you get advertisements pop up on your phone. It's almost like these devices are starting like to be able to read our minds before we're even aware. Like it's like we're literally merging into them. Does that make sense? So, okay, I gave you guys an example. This was a few lives ago. So there was a purse that I wanted, okay? I wanted this purse and I went into the store and I was like, oh, they don't have the one I want. So I need to check online to see if they have the one that I want online. And then I forgot about it, okay? I was just like, you know, doing something else and whatever. I completely forgot about it. And then I get an ad for that exact same purse pop up on my phone. And I'm just like, I didn't go on the website. I didn't, you know, like do anything other than think of this. And I noticed that's happening increasingly since CV. So I don't know if there's something connected to those tests, okay, that they made people do that like connected people to this, especially like other things that were involved during that period of time that like assisted in this like merging, okay, of the consciousness. But it could be just because of the fact that what I saw a few years ago, and I wish I saved this video too. I saw a few years ago, basically someone was saying that within the digital universe, because of the camera on the phone, because it's able to read our micro expressions, there's like a version of us already in the digital universe that's basically able to predict our next move. And this is connected back to what I was saying earlier about like it taking away from our intuition because of the fact that it's able to predict our next move. It's like it'll take people away even more from getting in tune with their intuitive muscle. Does that make sense? Because it's like, oh, I don't have to think about anything. The phone will decide for me. I mean, it's a plus because sometimes if I'm trying to solve something, I think it in my mind and I'm like, oh, maybe it'll pop up on my feed. You know what I mean? Because like clearly it knows something before I do, you know, but like it's happening already. Does that make sense? Yeah. Oh my God. I remember that one. And it's all like the same type of flu that they've been doing. You said when you rise above polarization, you can see what the powers that be are doing. Exactly. Everything is orchestrated. Exactly. You said politicians are just playing a role. Exactly, allegedly, but you were so on point. Exactly. And then they program through media, movies, and TV. But that's what I'm saying. So that's one good thing right now, you guys. So the good thing, you guys, is like, because we don't have like one channel that we can watch anymore, like, and there's a lot of people talking at the same time. Like there is still this counteracting energy that is happening. Like that's absolutely still happening, but it's like I mentioned earlier, it's a slippery slope because it can go down like south, like really fast, okay? Because it's accelerating. And like, I feel like because they have their specific agenda, allegedly in my opinion, but again, it's not alleged because they literally put it online, the Agenda 2030, in these next years, they're going to accelerate things like so fast, okay? And it's happening already because look at like, just like reflect, right? And think about 2019, okay? When we were still somewhat in the real world, and then 2020 happened and boom, everybody went online. Like everything went online, okay? So we're like, since then, okay, 2020, now it's 2025, we're at the halfway point, and it's so wild. Like, oh my gosh, my friends are so smart, because one of my friends was like, oh, it's like at the beginning of this year, my friend was like, oh, it's 2025, so they're gonna like accelerate their agendas, and that's exactly what started happening. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're so smart. So that's exactly what started happening. And I think now, after we move from 2025, you know, they're going to keep accelerating and they're going to try to put it through. Now the thing is it actually going to pan out, or is it not going to pan out? Like, I think that's the point of having these conversations. You know what I mean? Intuition is the age of Pisces thing, yes. But my question for you is, what happened with, what happened with the intuition during the age of Pisces? Witches were burned. People were gaslit, okay? It's just now, and we're at the end. It's just now that people are able to have these conversations. People don't think that psychics are scam artists, even though some of them are, right? So it's like the intuition was there, but people weren't listening to the intuition, okay? During the age of Pisces. That's the inversion. Like during the age of Pisces, everything that was involving the feminine energy was demonized, okay? So that's what I'm saying. It just is what it is, you know? They did lobotomies. You guys, like, think about all the things that they did. Lobotomies, in my opinion, a lot of psychology is just like another type of like lobotomy that's happening too, allegedly, in my opinion, right? Because it's all like viewed from the shadow masculine perspective. There's another person recently that was going viral, and I found like this person's story to be so interesting because, first of all, the person, I'm not going to mention them, but I'm going to kind of speak between the lines, so maybe some of you guys are going to catch on to who I'm talking about. But anyway, somebody recently went viral with one of their stories online, and I found it interesting because it shows me like where we're at in terms of the collective unconscious, because first of all, there was a lot of misogyny toward this person that took place, and second of all, it just went to show how much people still don't believe the intuition, like how quick people are willing to go toward science, okay, and to be like diagnosing people. First of all, like, why is anyone diagnosing anybody? Like, that's my question, okay? So it's like that impulse is still strong, you know, like, yes, we're in this bubble where, like, for example, I talk about the psychic world and the psychic life, and people are more open with it. But out there, the majority is still like, okay, you know, let's listen to science. Let's, you know, demonize the psychic world. That's just woo-woo. Like, and if you think about it realistically, like, all of these roles aren't roles that make a lot of money, right? So things that are valued in the society are more masculine energy leaning things, right? So that is your age of Pisces. That's what I'm saying. Like, why were they burning witches? And the whole thing is, the whole reason they were burning witches, and okay, so this is like the bottom line here, okay? The bottom line is the intuition within the person and the feminine energy is what ultimately is going to break down this energetic structure, okay? Because the feminine, or like the intuition, the psychic energy, sees through the veil, okay? So they see what's happening here, but at the same time, this is why they still need certain feminine energies. Like, I don't know if you guys have seen any of those, like, sometimes even like really eerie, creepy music videos where they have like, let's say a woman, specifically a woman, because the woman has a womb and she's connected to the other side, connected to a robot, and it's like the robot's like connected to the head, and it's like they're using the feminine energy, okay, to extract the energy, like to extract, let's say they're trying to open a portal, they're trying to use the feminine energy to open that portal. Like, these types of things are things that are taking place, okay? And that's your age of Pisces. Like, it's just wild, you know? So they need the feminine, right, in order to open portals. But if you're unaware that you're able to open a portal, they're using you indirectly. And that's already what's happening. Like, that's the whole thing with relationships too. Like, don't get me started on that. Like, that's the biggest scam in my opinion, because it's like, so many feminines out here don't know their value, they don't know their worth, and then they're just like willingly opening their sexual energy vessel, okay, to basically anchor what another person wants, okay? And that's what's happening. Like, that happens with feminine energy in general within people. Sometimes some people have more feminine energy within them regardless of gender, but especially if you have a womb, like, that's what's happening. Like, you're materializing people's dreams, okay? that make sense? Let's see, what else are you guys saying? You said you're trying to write a book and you sort of have an idea, but you don't want to force things. So you're wondering if I have tips on channeling, getting into a flow state to receive ideas. Just honestly elevate your frequency, but in the sense where it's like, do things that you love, okay? Don't engage with lower chakra things. Eat clean, eat healthy, okay? So fuel your vessel, exercise, okay? To clear out energy. That's what's going to help you, okay? You said, and it's working exactly as they want it to when everyone is using their lower chakras exactly, perspective or lens, the view or outcome is fear and anger, and they just want more fear to feed off of. That's exactly what's happening. You said, what is in control is feeding off of fear and anger, and everyone has a Saturnian lower chakra. Exactly, perspective and energy. That's most people. Like, if we're going to be realistic, most of the collective is still in that energy, okay? It's like, again, maybe this is what I mean. Like, you know, we're talking here today and maybe you have your friends who are also like you. Do you know what I mean? So it's like when you're in your bubble, it's like it doesn't seem like the whole world is a different type of way, right? But it's like if you just like step out for just a second, it's very much like the feminine energy is like very much under attack. Like that's actually what's happening down here, okay? You said you don't understand why they dumbed us down. You don't understand why they didn't keep us dumbed down and happy like the 80s. The climate is waking people up. Exactly. It's time. So there is like, okay, and this is what some people talk about too. And I do agree with this because I see this happening. And this is why they're trying to block out the sun. Oh my gosh. I'm so glad you guys know what I'm talking about because it's just like, okay. So the sun, okay, there's actually, okay, so you know how like in the new age, they talk about like the grand solar flash. I don't think it's one, okay? I think it's actually, see, this is what I mean. Like there's two truths and a lie. There's some truth to that. Like in the new age, a lot of them think there's going to be a solar flash, everything's going to be done, and that's it, okay? And I think they confuse that with the other agenda where they do their reset, because that's always happened. There's another person actually who has really interesting videos that I've seen too, where they talk about the ancient structures, and because of the ancient structures, like the way that they're intricately built, they're trying to say that people during that time didn't have the tools to make those structures. So they're trying to say that every few year or a few thousand years or whatever, like the time frame is, we go through that reset, okay? And then it kind of starts everything back at zero, okay? So that's one of the theories. So I think that that's like the confusion with the solar flash. Like I think that's actually what it might be. But anyways, there actually is some form of external influence here. Again, it's not all doom and gloom, but we still have to have the awareness. There's still something going on with the sun, okay? So this is what I've noticed, and I've talked about this on my threads, and it's just my own opinion allegedly, okay? So the sun, okay, there's something going on with the sun where it actually is bringing in new frequencies and elevated frequencies. And there is an elevation of energy that is actually happening, okay? So that is happening, like there is an awakening taking place here, like absolutely. And this is what I mean, where the technology can be used for good because we're able to spread the word, right? So that's like how you can use it basically for good. But here is the thing, okay? What they're trying to do, what I've noticed, because I noticed this, okay? I'll tell you guys what happened, what made me connect this to this. But what they're trying to do, okay, so I'm sure you guys have heard about like that psychopath who's like trying to block out the sun, allegedly, but like he said it himself. So have you noticed that like this year, there might have been more raining, there might have been more cloudy weather, and like all of these things, and that's part of like their like little agenda here. Well, maybe it's not little, but anyways, their agenda to block out the sun. So there's something here with the sun energetically interfering with the tech, okay? So that's what I noticed, because I noticed one day, oh my gosh, so this when I was traveling, the sun, it was just like such like a high frequency, like high vibe day. And like all my apps on my phone were glitching. And I was like, what is going on? And then it clicked in my head and I'm like, oh my goodness, they're trying to block out the sun because the sun like frequencies interfere with their tech. Okay. And it also interferes with like the people, right? Because it's like, it's raising our frequency energetically, and it basically like is creating awakenings and like all these things, right? I mean, you literally have that in like all of these ancient mythologies, right? Like Ra, okay? Ra is the sun. Like they literally used to worship the sun, right? And they're trying to block it out. And another thing that I heard another person say, and I wish I saved this video. I need to start saving these videos on my phone, but it's like you hear it and you're like, oh my gosh, that's so good. And then whatever, you forget about it. But anyways, this other person was saying basically that to actually power a lot of these AI things, they actually have to use a lot of energetic resources. And this person was trying to connect like the rain or something of that sort to like using too much like resources to fuel the AI. So I found that to be interesting. So there's that also that's interesting in this whole story with a lot of rain happening everywhere. But yeah, so that's the thing. My thing that I discovered is the sun. Like they're trying to basically do something with the sun because the sun is actually elevating the frequency, okay? Have a good night. Thank you for being here. You're welcome. That's exactly what it is. Oh my gosh, Jody, I love your name. First of all, Jody loves humanity. And then you said humanity is literally fighting for our right to exist as human beings. That's the whole thing, okay? Because like, why do we have to pay to exist? Like, this is what I mean. And it's like, this is the question. And that's why I was saying one time, and this is the question too, because I'm just like, okay, anyways, I was saying one time, I was like, you know, why, like, if everyone wants to actually protest, because here's the thing, okay, the protest where you're like screaming in the street and you make the board, like, it's nice, the sentiment is there, that's not gonna get anything done, okay? You go off, like, maybe you're raising awareness, like, sure, but it's like, I just find it interesting that like when people protest, like they resort to violence and they're breaking stores, they're setting things on fire, like, what is that gonna do? Nothing, right? Because if it was gonna work, it would have worked by now. Like, let's be real, right? So that doesn't work, okay? People tried it, like, whatever, that's done. What people need to do for the real protest, and I talked about this on my threads too, what people need to do for a real protest is to stop WORKING, okay? That's what will be the real protest, but everyone's too divided for that to go down. But everybody needs to stop doing that. They need to stop funding it. Do you know what I mean? But it's like people are too scared. They're like, oh, I have to do this and for this reason and for that reason. And I get it. Unfortunately, that's the way the structure is. But that is the only thing that would be the real protest, in my own opinion, allegedly. All of these other things, it could bring awareness, yes, but it's like, you have to like, these people are psychopaths, right? So you kind of have to understand how they operate. Like for them, everything is about money, right? Like they're actually like psychotic. So it's like, you know, you have to go straight to the source. You have to hit the wallet is really what it is, you know? Exactly. Take back your power. You said the overall collective energy. Yeah, exactly. Some people have done it for like one day, but that's not, like, think about it. If everybody decided collectively to just like stop engaging in any of it, like the whole thing would crash like right away. But like people don't know their power, okay? They don't know their power, and that's the struggle. Yeah, you said, what you always say, what if we just stop participating? That's the thing. And people don't have that, like, they don't have the, yes, the awareness. They're too distracted. They're too busy. They're worried. The fear is there. You know, sometimes there's other factors involved, but it's like if everybody just collectively agreed, but everyone's so divided. They're always arguing about the next thing. And it's like, it's always like the same type of argument. You know what I mean? Like it's always about some kind of thing that people found to argue about. And it's like, okay, you know, let's like see who the real issue is here and like what the real issue is here, okay? And who the real problem is and who's actually doing all of this. Like, but you actually have people out there who like don't believe any of this. They're like, oh no, that's not how it's happening. It's not like one like controller of this whole thing. And I'm just like, okay, anyways, you said the overall collective energy to you feels heavy, feels so heavy, and maybe you're wrong, it is heavy. You said, but you don't remember ever feeling this heaviness. You said, or like this push pull, what is and you said, what about this? Oh yeah, the HARP, and oh, it's in Antarctica. I never knew it was in Antarctica. Okay, you know what's wild, you guys? Okay, during one of my travels last year, I was waiting in line to do something, and I met this girl, and she basically was telling me about her man, okay? And she was telling me how he worked, and I just found it so interesting. I'm like, how do I meet these people? Like, how do I stumble upon these people? She was basically telling me that and here's the thing, these days I realized how much people lie, so maybe he was lying to her, I don't know, okay? But anyways, he basically said that he works for some company that's connected to that, what's the word, that continent, okay, ANTARCTICA, and he like goes on these like missions and like expeditions that like no one is allowed to know about. Like it's kind of like, it was giving like Secret Service type of energy, and I was like, is this real? Like, what's going on right now? I'm like, is he lying to her? Or I'm like, is this actually what he does for work? But anyway, so I thought that was interesting. Thank you. Yeah, it does. Yeah, I mean, that's there. They control the weather. That is just, even my grandma, you guys, my grandma, who is about to be 86 years old, even she was saying the same thing about the weather, okay? They're definitely, like, allegedly, I have to say that, but she was like, they're definitely doing something, because, like, where she lives, she was like, this is, like, abnormal for, like, this time of year, and she's like, there's definitely some kind of, like, control thing going down here, and I was just like, oh my goodness, like, even the 86-year-old person, like, is picking up on this. Of course it does. You said religion plays a huge role. Exactly. It's fear-based. Exactly. That's what I was trying to say about the age of Pisces. Like, the age of Pisces was the religions. So what was promising about that? You know, it's like, but anyways, bless all the people who have been showing the cracks in the system and who continue to show the cracks in the system, because I do still believe at the end of the day, like, that we are getting somewhere. Does that make sense? Like, I do still believe that, you know, it's all starting to collapse in on itself. It's going to be really interesting to see how it collapses in on itself. But this is why we need to talk about these things, and the awareness needs to be like raised, essentially. Like the agenda is like, because when you speak it, remember what I was saying at the beginning of this video? Maybe some of you guys haven't been here for the whole live, but way at the beginning of the video, I was talking about when someone tries to take your power away in like your day-to-day, like in the micro, this is in the microcosm, okay? It's like when someone tries to take your power away, they try to say something to you, and then if you want to counteract the energy, you can say something back to them, or just like energetically block it, like to just like counteract them trying to bind you, okay? And that's what I feel like these things are, okay? It's like by us talking about these things, we're like energetically counteracting the energy, okay? That's the way that I see it, really, at least. So you said you live in Baltimore, and when the weather is crazy, you always say, get off the button. Oh my gosh, you're so funny. I love you guys. Oh my gosh, literally your vibe attracts your tribe. You said, but how would we survive if not everyone does it? That's the thing. Everyone would have to do it. Just going back to that earlier comment there. You said you've been feeling a massive season, and that's the problem. People are too divided, you know, and it's just like, I don't know. I thought I had more faith in people, but then to me, 2020 and the events and occurrences of all of that showed me where the collective was at in terms of their consciousness. Okay. So at that point in time, I was like, okay, like this is where we're at. Like I literally did not think that people were going to, like that it would unfold the way that it did. Do you know what I mean? Like I did not think that we were going to get to the extreme like unfolding of the way those events went down. Like I really didn't think that was going to happen. Like, you know, so that just showed me where everybody was at in terms of the collective consciousness. More people are waking up. That's good. And the more that we have events like that take place, more people are going to wake up, right? So it's just like, it's really interesting to witness. It's really interesting to witness, but that's why you have to speak your truth, because I was actually saying to my friend yesterday, there were some people, and it's so wild how certain people play certain roles, because there was this one person that me and my friend used to love to watch during that period of time. Well, there was like a group of them, a group of people that we enjoyed watching, and basically like one of them just kind of like fell off, and it was so random because I was like, hey, what happened to that person? And then I noticed they like stopped posting in like the recent years, and I was like, literally like that person's role was to just like assist the certain group of people during like those events. Okay, so it's just like everyone has their role in all of these things, and that's why it's important to keep speaking your truth, because your truth is going to resonate with a certain group of people, right? And the more that people speak their truth, the more like the energy gets opened, right? So that's the positive outcome of the, let's say, age of Aquarius, right? You said you've been feeling a massive season change, feelings, energy change last week, but it's still in the 90s where you live. Okay. This is also what me and one of my friends were talking about. We were talking about, because here's the thing. Okay, when I left to go travel, it was still kind of cold, okay? And then I came back and it was like warm, and then it was like all of a sudden like a shift. So then I messaged my friend, and I'm like to my friend, I'm like, it feels like Samhain, like Halloween types of vibes. And I was like, what is going on? And then my friend was like, it feels like they just like pressed a button, speaking of buttons, and like like changed the weather from like summer to fall like in a second. And that's like what the weather has been like. And it's just like really weird, because it's like it's still technically August, but that's the other part of the story here, because the time is actually accelerating. So that was also wild, because this is what I mean by two truths and a lie, because in a lot of the religious books, they talk about the end times, quote unquote. And I remember when I posted about that on my Instagram, people were like not ready to hear it. But anyways, that was like 2020. But anyways, so people in the religious books, they talk about the end times, and they basically say how during the end times, time is going to quicken. And I've been feeling that, because I'm like, there is not the same, like, let's say 24 hours in the day that used to be back in the day. Okay. Because I'm like, either I'm moving slowly or the time is accelerating. And I really don't think I'm moving slowly. As you guys can tell, I talk really fast. So I'm like, what is happening? You said, can I help you with some grounding? It's really hard for your Neptune in the first house, Pisces sun. Check out my How to Stay Grounded as a 12th house person. Basically, to stay grounded, you have to do things that you like, okay? Surround yourself with people that you love, because that's the other thing that I realized about the love vibration. The whole thing with like people looking for love and the love vibration is it keeps you in the Neptunian bubble, so you're protected from the dark energies that are like looming around, okay? So like when people are isolated, and that's a struggle for the 12th house, because if you get isolated and you're on your own, and that's for anybody really, but especially if you're a 12th house Neptunian person, you're open. When you get isolated, the dark energies, you start to merge, okay? And that's why the 12th house also deals with the collective unconscious, because the collective unconscious is super dark, okay? So do things that you love, Surround yourself with people that you love, okay? Try to like stay busy, but not in like a distracting yourself type of way, just like, you know, keeping things like moving, okay? Keeping the energy moving. That'll help you stay grounded. Don't go into isolation because, again, being a 12th house person, Neptune, Pisces, you will merge to the energy on this earth plane, which everywhere, honestly, you guys, I've traveled to so many places. It's just basically the same everywhere. It's just like different like levels of like the dark energy, because what they do is like they open portals, essentially, is really what it is. And then not just that, not only do they open portals, but also like areas where there's like a lot of death, for example, that takes place. Like that's what like even like WARs are, okay? So those are just like another type of like RITUAL to open portals and open dark portals. And then like basically like those people that unfortunately get taken out during those events, it just creates like a stuck energy in that place, okay? And then also, of course, the people who are traumatized from the event, like it just creates like the energy in that place. So there's that, and then it opens portals. So there's that, and it's really hard to find somewhere on earth, if you think about it, that hasn't had something of the sort go down or take place, right? Like you can find maybe pockets that have like higher vibrational energy, but it's like if you really start to feel sometimes into the energy of like anywhere, really, you will start to feel the dark energy around. So when you're a 12th house person, if you're too isolated, you will merge to the collective unconscious, which is unfortunately very dark, and that's going to affect you, okay? Which is really interesting because then I find that like 12th house people are prone to substances like drugs, and again, as a form of escapism, but that actually opens you up even more. But when you do the substances, what happens is like basically this energy, okay, it's like you're trying to escape probably from the uncomfortable feeling, but the uncomfortable feeling that you're probably feeling, other than maybe your own stuff that you haven't cleared, is probably just like the energy of the earth plane, because it's actually very energetically uncomfortable down here, especially if you yourself are even like a little bit more in tune or like higher vibrational than the plane. It's a very dense dark plane. I mean, it's the third dimension, and it's like, if we look at hell as being like, let's say the first dimension, for example, like we're pretty close, you know what I mean? So that's what's going on. So yes, so do that as a 12th house person or like a Piscean Neptunian person, you know, trying to stay away from substances, doing things that keep you, again, especially that, like things that keep you happy and just like things that you love to do, being around people that you love. And what else? Exercise is a big one, what you eat, because also, okay, that's another thing that I noticed. Also, the stuff that they put in the food. Okay, so I went on this tangent so many times, you guys. They put, allegedly, so much sugar, okay, in everything. I guess the preservatives are all rooted in sugar, but also salt, but I feel like it's sugar. There's something in the sugar, or like the fake sugar that they use, that also opens your energetic vessel, okay? So there's stuff in the food, essentially, which I'm sure you guys already know, but specifically like the sugar, okay? There's something with the sugar. Like that's just something that I picked up on, because anytime I go outside of North America, it's like it's not as intense because a lot of like the additives are actually banned in other places. So that actually opens up your energy field too. So trying to eat healthy and as clean as you can, okay? So that's another thing. And yeah, that's pretty much like in a nutshell what you can do, okay? You said you feel like your sleep has changed. Same thing for Neptune in the 7th. So Neptune in the 7th, I'll get to you in just a second. Neptune in the 7th. Who's stronger, Scorpio or Cancer? Scorpio for sure. Cancer can get very overwhelmed with the feelings. Scorpio's about emotional control. You said any advice for Neptune in the 7th? Okay, Neptune in the 7th, you dream about relationships, okay? You're always like, oh my gosh, when I meet my one true love, or my one true love is out there. And like these days, you know, there's always a different word. Soulmate, then it was twin flame, then I heard special person. Now I heard people say like divine person. Like they're always switching it up. You know what I mean? Ultimately, what you're looking for is your connection to God, okay? Source, the creator. People can help you get there. Yes, but that's what you're ultimately trying to get to. That it's a frequency, it's a state of being, okay? So Neptune in the 7th is always looking for this. So they go through a lot of like, you know, falling in love, heartbreak, disappointment, like all these things, okay? So that's Neptune in the 7th. Trying to stay grounded in terms of relationships is really what it is. But also that energy can sometimes fantasize even about money too, I find. So because it's like the Venus energy. You said you feel like your sleep has changed a lot since 2019. You were staying more and more, I guess, awake at night. The night is the only friend that gets you. You said that's why you many times, okay, I guess you stay many times all night and then you go to sleep when the sun comes. That's interesting. That also sometimes happens to people who are in a depression. So I hope you're okay. You said the food is so much better in other countries. It is. It really, really is. It's more clean and fresh. And like, also it's like back in the day, people used to eat seasonally, okay? And don't get me started on the meat. I mean, I don't eat meat, but it's not because like I love the animals. Like people always think like, oh, if I'm eating this meat in front of you, like, are you like, do you feel bad for the animal? And I'm like, that's actually not the reason. I know some people go vegetarian for that reason, but it's like, it's probably better that you guys don't know what they're mixing in the meat. And same thing, I also don't trust Beyond the Meat. I think they're actually going bankrupt. I saw recently, like that company. But yeah, all those like fake plant-based things, like I only trust like, let's say like a veggie burger that's made out of black beans, for example, or like chickpea, like whole food, you know what I mean? You said, can I tell you more about how I think the end times will result? I mean, we're in them right now. Is there any religious scripture that wins out, or do I think something else will happen? They're trying to play out the religious scriptures. Like that's all of the current events is they're trying to follow the book, okay, to play out those storylines. That's exactly, they're trying to do that. Okay, so that's what's happening. So yeah, that's what's happening. So people are unaware, like that's probably the direction it's gonna go. They'll play out all of that. You know, they'll bring through the anti-C and they'll destruct all the religions. It'll be like, okay, now the book is done and now we're starting new. And then that's when they'll bring through their whole like computer, AI, and intensity stuff, okay? That's where I'm at in terms of what I think about that. You said you feel ashamed when you stop eating meat. Then you said, wow, yeah, you heard that. You hear some deep religious people that are trying to push for that outcome because they want their Messiah to come. Yeah, there's not going to be a Messiah. I hate to say that. I'm so over people thinking that there's going to be a savior. And I'm also so over people putting that savior energy on like another person, especially when it's a politician. I'm just like, the politicians are not your friends. Like, they're not going to save you. Like, they're part of the overall like agenda is really what it is. Like, oh my goodness, do not get me started on that. Yeah, the religious people are a little bit too intense. Like they're too crowny in like a negative way, okay? Because here's the thing, in the religious scriptures, there's two truths and a lie, okay? And they're also man-made. So they're literally written by somebody. And it's like, why are we following a book that was like written like how many thousand years ago? You know what I mean? Like I believe in God, I do. Like I believe in a source, I believe in a creator because I feel that in my heart chakra. Like there definitely is a God, but it's not the way that they describe it in the books. And also a lot of the things in the books are also basically like metaphors. Do you know what I mean? Like marriage is supposed to be a metaphor. Like that's supposed to be a unification of the masculine and feminine energy, and like all these things, like the purity energy, like you're supposed to purify the vessel. Like it has nothing to do with anything else. You know what I mean? And by purifying the vessel is like you being a good person. So it's just like, I just find it wild because it's like, what happened to love thy neighbor? Like you guys go off and like blow up a country over religion, and it's like, isn't like the first like, you know, instruction in there to love your neighbor? Like none of you guys love the neighbor. And that's what I'm saying. Like when people are talking about like, oh, new earth and ascension, I'm like, have you literally opened up any comment section and like on any like intense viral video? Like humanity is so filled with hate. I'm like, where is this love vibration that you're all talking about? Like what is going on? I'm like, are you guys like in this reality? Like it's in front of you. Do you know what I mean? Like speaking of tech, like just go on any video, open up the comment section, and you'll see how, like, especially when people are hidden behind a screen, like how rude people can be. Like on super viral videos is really what I'm talking about. You're not going to see it on like, you know, like smaller posts sometimes where people are like, go off queen. Like I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about like super viral videos where people can hide. Like, yeah, there's a lot of hate in humanity's hearts. You said, what happens to the souls? You said AI is messing with our emotions. Exactly. You said, what happens to the souls on this earth if we get taken out due to the fake end times? I would imagine the reincarnation cycle would end. You said, right? Unless you have to figure out how to exit when that time comes. That's what I was talking about at the beginning of this video. We need to find those books, we as in us together, like everybody, okay? The books that are hidden that taught people how to exit the realm. Okay, so when that time comes, so you know how to exit. So instead of going, like the way that I see it psychically is like you have to go sideways, okay, so they don't see you, okay, basically, because they're going to try to energetically siphon you to loop back around. That's like the whole trick down here. You said you would love to escape the reincarnation. Oh, Gnosticism. Yes, I do have book recommendations. I read a book on Gnosticism many, many years ago now. I had to like train myself to read longer form books, okay? Because when I was younger, okay, I read all the Harry Potter books and I loved those. And then after that, like I just like did not like really want to read when I was in my school, but I did it because I had to for school. And that was how I ended up doing my math degree, because I was like, I hate reading, so let me just do like what I can learn very fast instead of like reading like all of these texts. But then later on, I was like, okay, I actually want to read all of the like spiritual meanings of all of the religions. So that was like one of my goals. So I had to like sit down and train myself to like actually like read it, which was fine. So anyways, I have a whole book recommendations section, okay, under my, maybe it's my miscellaneous astrology videos. But anyways, I'm sure if you type in book recommendations, Barbara Talks, it'll come up, okay? And then you said you'd love to escape. You said it's a lot. Yeah, it is a lot. You said you, especially like when it's in school. Oh my goodness, the stories I could tell you guys. You said you would love to escape the reincarnation cycle, but you can't imagine it's that easy once you're out of body. That's the thing. You have to figure out how to do it. Like you have to figure out what it is. All that I know, I've made videos on it, you guys, where I talked about basically like, you know how religions talk about forgiveness? Like there's that factor there. See, this is what I mean. Like that's true. Also, it's like you have to forgive yourself. You have to cut cords with people. You have to kind of neutralize energy with people so they don't bind you down, okay? So it's this. You have to have no regrets in life. You have to have like fulfilled your desires. You have to have no desires when you exit this realm. Like you have to rectify all of those energies within you. Now, if you did something and you feel bad for it, or maybe you're like remembering later, well then you didn't know at that time perhaps. So you have to like rectify the energy within, even if you can't rectify with another person, because it's like you can try to talk to another person, but they might still feel a type of way about a situation. But as long as you rectify the energy within you, I find, okay, you're not going to be energetically pulled down. But it's like you have to do the exploration, because sometimes, you know, in all these near-death experience videos, have you guys heard when people talk about their near-death experiences, there's always like, oh my gosh, it was so nice and so high vibrational, but there was always something that pulled me to come back. Like they show you something, right? They're going to be like, oh, you didn't share your pencil with Billy when you were in grade 2. Now you have to go back and like play that out again. Or it's like, oh, you know, you look at this person in this way and, you know, they thought you were giving them a dirty look. Meanwhile, you were like zoned out and you were thinking about what you're going to make for dinner, you know? So it's like things like this, right? So you have to like clear the energy. You have to have the awareness that they're going to play those tricks. That's one of the things that I know, okay? So yes, that's pretty much that. But in terms of like the actual point in time, we don't know, right? Because it's like in certain books that they have either hidden, okay, and they don't teach this anymore. You said you needed that pencil. Yeah, there you go. So someone's reincarnating back because of you. You said, isn't that all the old Egyptian texts that talk about how to leave the realm? Exactly. There you go. So you have it in those texts too. You said like the cow and the pyramid text. That's so interesting. I've been thinking about the cow energy. You said maybe it's better to not have kids. That's a huge belief. Yes. Or get married, because in the end, you won't have any karmic ties left behind and you won't have any leverage to pull you back. Okay. Here's the thing. I don't want to influence anybody. So you guys do your own thing. Okay. You guys do your own thing. You have the free will to do what you want. But what I will say to you guys, the person you have the most amount of karma to clear with most of the time is the person you share a bed with. So that's going to be your spouse. So keep this in mind, okay? That's going to be the biggest karmic type of situation. It's first your family, like the people you incarnate with, because you're literally in this close proximity with these people, right? When you're a kid and you're growing up, and it's like, it's intense, right? And it's like, because it's family, like I understand that these days, like, a lot of people are like trying to go no contact and all these things, but I also don't think that's fully a solution unless it was something really extreme, in which case I understand, right? But it's like, again, with family, there's the tie to them. So it's like, first of all, those are the people who have the most amount of karma to clear. And I'm sure you guys have heard when people say like, oh, you think you've healed? Like go spend a day with your family to see how much you have healed, right? So those are the people you have the most amount of karma to clear with, and then your spouse. Okay. And then it's true, because if you do have children and if you have kids already, that's fine. Okay. But I'm just saying like that is a belief in a lot of like these like texts and so on and so forth, because it's like having the kids sometimes, okay, it's hard to explain because I can see sometimes how for some people it's like part of their karma to have the kids. I hope that makes sense. And it's some kind of clearance that takes place. But there's the other part of the story. The way that I see it sometimes is like, people actually try to heal themselves through their children, whether they're aware of it or not. So a lot of the time you'll see like people be like, oh, I wanted to have the kids have something that I could never have, or have an experience that I didn't have, or like raise them in a different way than you were raised. Like that's all you trying to heal your own inner child through your kids, right? So people are doing this unconsciously. Or then you have like parents who like push their kids into like whatever, soccer or swimming or whatever, dance, acting, because the parents wanted to do that. I noticed that a lot of the time for people born in Los Angeles actually. Okay, but anyways, that's a different story for a different day. But anyways, so that's something that happens, okay? That's something that happens. And then it's like, you know, if you heal your inner child for yourself, you might not actually have a desire to have a kid because you heal that within the self. Does that make sense? So there's that part of the story. And then there's the other part of the story. If you have the kid, it's like it's tying you back, because it's like maybe you feel like your time is not complete with the person, or maybe they're just energetically pulling you, because this is the thing too. And this is the shadow of fame, okay? I've spoken about this in my previous lives too. When people get quote unquote famous, right, to that international extreme level, they never fully cross out of the earth plane, because when they cross out, they have all of these people who are always pulling their energy back. So even if there's someone that you listen to who has crossed out, okay, and by the way, someone's energy that I've recently been picking up on is Michael Jackson. But anyways, I wanted to do a video on my other channel, which by the way, if you guys are new, check out my other channel. I rarely post on there because I have to hook into the person's energy to, like, I can do readings on people, but sometimes for me, it's like I have to hook into the person's energy, be like, why am I picking up on this person? And then I do the reading on them. But yeah, those are my natal chart readings. It's called Barbara Talks Some More. But anyways, I haven't posted in there in a while. But if you guys want to see how I do my readings, check out that channel. But anyways, what I was saying is like, okay, for example, let's say someone who was a musician and he crossed out and now you're listening to his music all the time, you're reactivating that vibration. So they never fully cross out. Like that's the struggle with their energy, because people are always like, they're energetically tied. And I think that's part of their deal. Okay. You said you always say to yourself the karmic ends now. Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say, or was saying that earlier. You said, is it love that has the strongest karma? It's usually with your spouse, I think. That's my own opinion. You said, TBH, you're glad that I'm talking about this. Good. You said, can I give you my perspective on gay relationships? You said, honestly, you don't see a relationship ever working out for you, period. So you were relieved to hear. And then you said, me saying, oh, that relationships are a scam. Yeah, because they take away from your individuality. You said it sucks for someone like you because you're a spiritual person and you also believe in monogamy. But a lot of times dating men in general, they tend to be sex addicts. That's a huge thing too. You said the apps that they use, etc. You said it's discouraging, but maybe your soul decided celibacy is the way to go. Here's the thing. Like I was talking about that, actually rewatched the beginning of this live. It's like, it's hard to say because I understand, like, yes, the need for companionship and all of these things, but the issue is most people are trapped in their lower chakras. And as long as people are in their lower chakras, the relationships they engage in are going to be like you're trying to fulfill your need through another person, okay, or a wound or something of that sort. Like that's the way that I see it. And I was actually saying at one point in this live, like the way that I see the collective going is like the more that you heal, the more you go actually like into asexuality, or just like, you know, on the asexuality spectrum. So like a sapiosexual or like a demisexual, for example, where it's like, again, you're not operated out of your lower chakras. Now it's interesting you mentioned the sex addict thing, because I find sex addicts, they actually come from a background of either some sort of shame, because it's connected to shame. It's your sacral chakra, right? So it's like in your example, for example, like what could have taken place for them is maybe they had shame around their sexuality for a long period of time, and it's so internalized, it's manifesting into the sexual addiction. Okay, I was talking about that earlier as well. So if the sacral chakra is wounded in any way, shape, or form, so for example, like maybe suppression of sexuality, it could be trigger warning some form of sexual abuse that took place, whether it's covert, overt, because like there could be covert sexual abuse where someone is making you feel uncomfortable. For example, let's say when you were a kid, someone commented on what you wore all the time and these types of things, like that could also affect the sacral chakra. You know what I mean? So it's not so overt sometimes, okay? But yeah, all of that is going to go into an addiction. So it's interesting you say that, because the sex addiction is connected to shame, okay? And for them in this situation, it could be something connected to their sexuality, okay? But it doesn't mean, you know, like all hope is gone. I just think the more that you heal, it's harder to find someone who's on the same page as you, because they have to kind of be in the same vibe. Do you know what I mean? Like they have to have also healed, right? But I find that the more that you work on yourself, like you have less of a need, because you're not externalizing your needs anymore and projecting that onto another person, which ultimately is actually like the healthiest way to have a relationship, right? But you just have to find another person who's on that same page. I really, really hope that makes sense, okay? Bye. Thank you for being here. Make something beautiful. You said that makes sense. You said that makes a lot of sense. And honestly, like at this point in time where the collective is at, like people shouldn't really be getting together, if you ask me, because people are getting together and they're traumatized, and then they're making kids, and then they're traumatizing the kids. It's ironic because the people, speaking of kids, because you were bringing that up too, it's like the people who should actually be having the children are the ones who aren't having the children. Wasn't that so interesting? And the people who shouldn't have the kids are like the traumatized people who are just kind of like, you know, making kids, and they're not conscious or thinking about it. But I guess that's how maybe it's always been down here. I guess that's why we're like in the energetic mess that we're in, because it's like people like are putting their traumas on their children. Do you know what I mean? Or like the way that they act and these types of things, because kids are so sensitive and kids are so perceptive. You guys, kids are so smart. Like I cannot get over how smart like kids are. First of all, like they absorb everything like a sponge, but they're very, very like, yes, intuitive, but also very intelligent from like a young age. Like they pick up on things, because I have little cousins they pick up on things that you're kind of like, hold on, like this is like something an adult would notice. Do you know what I mean? So they're always noticing what's going on with like the dynamics with the parents in the house, with the other siblings, like all these things, you know? So it's this. You said that makes a lot of sense. Honestly, you would say that it is something that affects the majority of the community. A lot of unhealed people overall. Dating wise, the pickings are slim, already slim. And then you said you agree you've been single for 5 years at this point. I mean, I think that that needs to be more normalized. You know what I mean? Like, I'm so over, like, that's always everyone's topic of conversation. Like, who are you dating? Who are you dating? Who are you talking to? Like, why is that a thing, instead of like focusing on, like, there's so many other things to focus on like in this world. And like that's why I don't like dating apps, because it's like you're going out of your way to make something happen. Like, you're basically, whether you're aware of it or not, trying to control the outcome, which is not going to have a good outcome, or you're going like with a desperate energy on there. Like, honestly, you'll see this in some people's charts. Like, some people do find their partners online, but that's a very small percentage of the population. Like, I know some people who like on their first try basically like met someone and, you know, they ended up being in a successful relationship. But most people on there is just like another hot mess type of situation. And I think also because of the internet, like the internet brings out like the shadow, the collective shadow essentially. So it's like you kind of see the worst of people through that as well. And the other thing is too, is like in terms of relationships, the way that I see it is like things will always find you when they are meant to find you. Okay. That's the way that I see it. And like you should be in tune with your intuition to know whether it's something that's going to benefit you or not. Like, you really don't need to go out of your way to make anything happen, because then you're trying to control the outcome and you're being in that energy. Does that make sense? So when you're in the energy of like trying to control something, okay, it's not a good start, you know, to that dynamic. Oh my gosh, thoughts on IVF? Okay, that, I was going to talk about that on my threads too, okay? Oh my gosh. You guys, IVF, the whole reason that's happening is because of birth control, okay? So that's my own opinion, allegedly, and I might have to talk between the lines for that. And that's just my own opinion, just my own observation. So I find that because, okay, so there's like this collective thing that's going on where they're also trying to control like the births and so on and so forth, like allegedly. So people, I find, this is my own opinion, I would like to do a research study on this, so maybe someone will get inspired from this video. But I feel like people who are on birth control for a long period of time, it did something where it messed up their natural like rhythm or their cycle. And I would be really curious to do research on people who do IVF and ask them what is their relationship with birth control, because that's also happening in increased amounts. The other thing that's also messing with people too, and why they're having to go down that route, is yes, the food, the contamination in the food, the other contamination that is being contaminated within people. I hope you guys catch my drift on that. Okay, so it's everything, like it's a lot of things that are being amalgamated together. But I think the root issue there is some sort of like something to do with the birth control and that messing with the hormones. Okay, that's my own opinion though. Okay, the other issue with this too is that I've noticed with people is like, okay, and it's just my own opinion, I understand that some people like really want to have kids, I get that, but it's like sometimes you're being blocked for a reason. Like sometimes, and I hate to say this, but sometimes you're not meant to have kids with that specific person, and then you're being energetically blocked. So I just like, it's just a perception thing, because the way that I see it is like when something's meant to happen, it will happen. Do you know what I mean? And it's like sometimes people, I guess because of the advancements and all these things, they try to go out of the way to control the outcome, you know. And I get it, like some people really truly have that desire, but sometimes I think to myself and I'm like, maybe it's your body's way of saying like you're not meant to reproduce with that person. Okay, because I've heard so many stories like of like couples where they like tried for so many years, they weren't able to have kids, and then finally when they give up, and that's usually everything in life, that's literally everything in life, when they gave up, they just like randomly got pregnant. Okay, and then they, or like the woman did, okay, she got pregnant. Or, you know, same thing, sometimes I've heard with like the IVF stories too, like they tried for so long, finally they got the IVF babies, and then like, you know, a few years down the road they thought they wouldn't be able to get pregnant, and then here comes the kid. Do you know what I mean? So it's just like, I think it's an energetic thing too. It's like, you know, maybe you're not meant to have the kid at that point in time, maybe it's not meant to be with that person, maybe it's going to be later, like, you know what I mean? So it's just like, I think there's a lot going on there. Okay, oh, good. I'm glad that that resonated. Yeah, exactly. It's all like, it's all being done by design, basically. Like they, it's really interesting to see, because from one end of the story and one perspective, like I do believe that at this point in time, because of the way that the shadow patriarchy has been, like certain people have reproduced children that maybe weren't ever going to if the system wasn't the way that it was. I hope that that makes sense. So like that's kind of creating an issue down here on this earth plane. But it's like, it's interesting to see because it's happening through their like methods of control, but it's also happening like naturally, like people are naturally like not wanting to have kids because of the state of the world and all of the things, right? And then I find it interesting because I always tell you guys this too. It's like, there's always two timelines playing out. Like there's always the organic timeline, but because the psychopaths that like run this world, they want to fuck. Oh my gosh, I was gonna swear. I'm trying not to swear on here. But anyways, they want to control everything, okay? So they're like control freaks, like they're actually psychotic. So what they do is like to have the controlled outcome, okay? Because this thing was gonna happen anyways, the organic timeline, okay? They wanna have the controlled outcome because they're literally psychotic. They try to like prematurely make it happen, so they kind of have the outcome that they want. Like it's really interesting because they like keep trying to play God, but it like always ends up blowing up in their face because it's like they talk about the issue of population, yet we have like the most amount of people ever. So it's like really interesting to witness. You said you've noticed 20-something-year-olds graying lately. Interesting. They're probably stressed because of something. Or actually the first thing that came to mind for me, for them, is maybe this is happening because of the fact it's actually connected to their sacral chakra, because the younger generations are also having like the least amount of like physical intimacy taking place. And that's also connected to, again, not making connections with people and just like chilling in your room all day. Like some people are willing to, you know, play video games all day or just like scroll on their phone all day. And all of this is tied back to what I was talking about in this live earlier when I went on my like AI technology rant, right? Like it's taking away human connection. And at the end of the day, like that's not something that you can force. Do you know what I mean? Like you either vibe with someone or you don't, you know? So it's like if people are in their little bubbles within their worlds where like, again, the tech is validating their whole internal world and all of their likes and, you know, their interests, like it's going to be hard to connect with someone because you're never going to meet someone where they're going to be 100% compatible with you. Like you guys might have some things in common, right? But like the tech creates it in a way where it's like 100% everything is in common. Does that make sense? There's something else one of you guys set up here. I'm trying to find out. Or find it, I mean. You said you recently went no contact with your uncle who raised you, and you said he was narcissistic, and then he committed 6 months later. What's your karma, if any? I mean, I don't think that has anything to do with you. Don't internalize that. Like, this person must have probably been struggling already, okay? I don't think that has anything to do with you. You said sometimes your kids are put into your life to wake you up. That's facts, okay? So that's a huge thing too. Like sometimes your kids are your karma too, right? So we see that happening sometimes with like public people. You said you think everyone should be alone and disconnected from the world for at least a year. I like that. You said go within, heal, transcend loneliness. Yes, codependency. Melissa, you are so advanced. Codependency would disappear. That's what it is. So that's the thing. It's like everyone has the biggest fear of being alone. But if you were to spend the time to actually be alone, you would have healthier relationships. Okay? I completely agree with you. You said your extremely conscious parents had 4 kids and they would have had more, but your mom had to get a hysterectomy. Thank goodness. It's like the universe intervened to make it stop. Yeah, sometimes parents are interesting. Like I saw some people online who have like 10 kids, 11 kids, 12 kids. And at that point in time, it's just like, you know, it's a little bit intense because it's always intense. It's always intense for the oldest kids. Keep that in mind, okay? Because then the oldest kids end up having to take care of everybody. You said you like being alone a little bit too much sometimes. You said, hey, Barbara, thank you for the reading last life. Yay, I'm glad that it resonated. You said ways to spiritually combat depression as an A-house Pisces stellium. Yes, trying to keep your frequency high, trying to keep your energy elevated, okay? You said, do kids that have been neglected have mommy issues when they're older? Yes. Here's the thing. Okay, I'll get into that in just a second. Back to the 8th house Pisces stellium. Okay, I talked about this earlier in my life. Check out my video, how to stay grounded as a 12th house person, okay? I personally feel, speaking of, okay, the dark energy wants to isolate people, and that's kind of what's happening, right? It's isolating people. People, even though they're connected through their computers, okay, they're still disconnected in terms of the connection with other people. So, you know, I feel like depression, in my opinion, and I'm not a psychologist, okay, so that's the thing, but it's like, and that's my disclaimer, it's like this energy comes through when you're isolated, when you're too much on your own, because as a Pisces energy, and I was saying this for Pisces, 12th house, and Neptune, the earth plane is dark and the energies are dark. So this is why people are looking for love or like, you know, looking for a family vibe or just like always find some kind of distraction, because that actually kind of creates this bubble for you that then kind of protects you energetically from what's going on this earth plane. Okay. So when you're Pisces, 12th house, or Neptune dominant, it's like you merge to the collective's unconscious, which is dark, okay? So that could bring through the depression energy. Also trying to stay away from substances, doing things that you love, being around people that you love, going to the gym, exercising, like trying to really put yourself out there. Like the energy within the Pisces energy, 12th house, and even Neptune is going to try to keep you separated, okay? But that's not really your energy, I would say. Like, I think that's you merging to the collective unconscious. Like, I really, really hope that that makes sense, which the collective unconscious is dark and there's a lot of dark entities and all these things. So yeah, doing any of these things to try to get out of that, okay? And you're gonna have to kind of force yourself, because the dark energy wants to keep you in the comfort vibe, but force yourself out to, again, do all these things, find something that you like to do, find a new hobby, be out there engaging with people, right? Like that's what's not really happening anymore. Like people don't even know how to joke anymore. People don't even say hi anymore. Like it's still like wild. Like you're walking down the street, like you look at someone and you smile and they like look away, and I'm like, are you all okay? I don't think so. I really don't think people are. Okay, so the people, okay, so here's the thing. Back to the kids who have been neglected. Yes, okay? So if you've been emotionally neglected, it depends what kind of neglect it is. If it's emotional abandonment or neglect, yes, it will bring through, yes, it could be mommy issues, like the way that I see it, and that's what brings in codependency. Do you guys see how everything is connected? And that's just my own opinion, allegedly, okay? I'm not a psychologist, like that's my disclaimer, but it's like if you spend, okay, for example, you know, you had a lot of feelings and the parent wasn't emotionally available to, you know, deal with that, or maybe they were busy, or maybe they had like their own stuff going on. Yes, that's going to create an issue because it creates the separation. Also, the mother, and I don't know what the age is for this, maybe you guys can Google it. I don't know if anyone's researched this. This is just my own observation, because what I've noticed, okay, is animals spend a certain amount of time when they are babies connected to the mother. But this is another thing that's also, I feel like, been genetically modified too, or something of that sort, okay? Because for kids, it's a short period of time, or not kids, like the baby animals, it's a short period of time, okay? Where it's like you're with the mother, they like grow up really fast and then they separate, but like they're together a lot, okay? So I feel like that's the issue, and that's actually the issue with like everything that's been happening in the world, is like, because this happened especially in the millennial generation, where the mother started to go to work, right? Because it's like, I don't know what the amount of time is for a kid that they need to have been with the mother, right? For it to have been a healthy dynamic, okay? I don't know how many years it is. I don't know, whatever, maybe some of you guys know, right? But that's just what I've observed by observing animals, right? And it's just like humans, if they don't have that time with the mother, where also the mother has to be in a healthy point in her life, right? So this is the issue, right? Because it also is contingent upon the father and how the father is treating the mother, right? So it's like if the mother is healthy and she's emotionally available and she's able to, and she's equipped, right, and supported to deal with the child, right, then you don't have that energy of neglect to take place. But if the separation is too soon, or she wasn't able to tend to your needs, or you got emotionally abandoned or neglected, or you weren't able to talk about your feelings, or maybe she was working all the time, or maybe whatever it was, right? Maybe it was the environment within the home that was tense or something of this sort, and she was on edge all the time, like the kid is going to feel all of that, right? So then now you don't have that time, okay? There's like that separation that takes place, okay, with the mother. And then I feel like when this separation takes place, that's what creates codependency in humans. So I feel like when humans are looking for love, they're actually looking for that love from the mother that they didn't actually initially receive, okay? And that's just my own opinion, okay? So when you rectify that energy within the self, you will be able to overcome this, okay? I guess I am. You know what? I'm just an observer of humans, okay, and life and everything, because I also observe animals and how they act and all of this, okay? So that's just all that I do. And then I come to these conclusions. Let's see, what else you guys saying here? I'm confused to know what you're talking about here with forcing is not the way. Forcing is not the way. What are you referring to? Oh, good. I'm glad that that resonated. What if your spouse died? What about the question? Like, what do you mean if your spouse died? You said you read somewhere that the Venus placement is in a Saturn ruled house, means yes, that's true. So if you have Venus in Capricorn, if you have Venus Saturn aspects, if you have Saturn in the 7th house, if you have Capricorn in the 7th house, all of these energies are going to be quote unquote delayed love, or like karma around love and relationships. Usually Saturn quote unquote matures around the age of 35, okay? Now, with that being said, it doesn't mean you have to wait until you're 35, okay? It just means that, you know, you're either looking for more mature lovers, okay? Or it's like your relationships are going to be more stable after the age of 35, okay? So that's how Saturn works. Oh my gosh, hi from Bucharest. Hold on, I'm trying to think if it was, I flew through, I think it was Budapest actually. Yeah, it was Budapest that I flew through. I flew through Budapest and they took 55 euros for me not checking in online when I never got the email. Anyways, I'm not a fan of that company, but I'm not going to mention it here. You said your mother passed before you turned 8 and then the widowed father neglected you from the external world. You have 12th house sun, that's the neglect, conjunct Neptune, and 10th house Scorpio moon. Yeah, I see that playing out in your chart. I'm curious to know, are you a Cancer rising or do you have Cancer in your chart? You said the heartbreak from not having a mother and love in our reality is exactly. Okay, this is exact. The heartbreak from not having mother love in our reality is what keeps us in parasitic, vampiric cycles as a collective. That's exactly what the issue is. And that's why that was also done by design, to take the mother out of the home. Okay, and I'm not talking in the extreme, like I'm not saying, you know, not work ever, okay, but there needs to be a study done, and maybe it's been done and maybe that's why they've done this. There needs to be a study done to see what is the sufficient amount of time, okay, that the kid needs to be with the mother. But it's not just her not being in the home. The issue is also the father sometimes, okay? That's what I'm trying to say. It's like, if he created an anxiety-driven environment, okay, if he had a lot of anxiety, like the mother, there needs to be a very specific type of environment for the kid to form in a healthy way, okay? First of all, there needs to be financial stability, okay? There needs to be the mother specifically with the kid for that certain period of time. The mother needs to be emotionally available. She needs to be emotionally intelligent. She needs to be able to focus on the kid. But because everyone's unhealed, sometimes the kid comes through, the husband gets jealous, okay? Or the father gets jealous. Like, there's just so much, right? So it has to be a very specifically curated type of environment for there to actually be like the healthy developmental phase, okay? So there's a lot of factors here that are at play, okay? So sometimes, again, maybe the mother had to work all the time, and like you can't replace the mother's love. I actually saw the most interesting video on the Clock app, you guys. Basically, this video was two twins, okay? So the twins, they're adults, okay? And one of them has a kid, okay? And the kid, I don't remember how old the kid was, maybe like under 3, okay? Like a little child. And the twin like ladies, what they looked the same, okay? But they switched to see if the kid was going to notice that the mom switched, okay? And it was so interesting because the kid noticed, even though they looked the same. And then somebody was basically saying in the comments how the kid is able to like recognize the mother from like the scent, okay? And it's just like, it's just so fascinating. Do you know what I mean? So it's really important. The mother needs to be healed. Exactly. The mother needs to be healed. You said your mom is an Aquarius sun, Sagittarius moon, and then you said, and you are the only water sign child, Pisces moon, 8th house. Your mom exactly is not emotionally available. That's exactly what it is, because you having the Pisces moon in the 8th house, you need even more. Do you know what I mean? Like you need even more support from the mother, okay? Because also you're a psychic child. And that's the other thing too, okay? Because someone earlier was talking about like intuition and the age of Pisces. Like, how were children who were psychic supported until this point in time? Like, that's just what I want to know. That's what I'm trying to say with the age of Pisces being inverted. Like, they weren't, right? So it's like having a Pisces moon and your NA house moon, right? It's like you need not only the emotional support, but you also need the psychic support, okay? You need the mother to understand. Like, this is what I mean. And every kid is going to be different. So it's like there needs to be a certain type of development within the mother to be able to assist the kid to develop in an unhealthy way, instead of like, at this point in time, up until this point in time, people are just like birthing children because that's the thing you're supposed to do. Do you know what I mean? You said only happy moms create successful children, and then you said we are all moms. And then you said Aquarius rising, both daddy and mother issues. And then you said, let's see, you said about evil entities wanting us to be separate. You're conflicted about this. On one hand, you do like being alone for too long is definitely detrimental. Exactly. On the other hand, people kind of suck, lol. Most connections tend to fizzle out or go sour. I know. It's just like the times that we are living in at this point in time. Like people are just, they're going through a lot, okay, guys? Because honestly, some people are just starting their healing journey. Some people don't even want to start their healing journeys. It's a lot of work, and it's not fun to do the healing journey and to like work on the self. So like, I get it. It's a struggle, but at the same time, sometimes you kind of have to take people for where they're at. You know what I mean? Like I joke around with my friends because I say like how I have my like 3D friends, you know, and whatever, like it's fun with them. They do like 3D types of activities, and like that's like, you know, a different type of dynamic. Like, you know, you're gonna need like different types of people. You're never gonna meet one person, one friend, one partner that's going to fulfill everything, right? And that's the issue, going back to like the AI and the computers and all these things, you know. One of you said de-zombification. Yes. Okay, guys, if you want your own natal chart reading, synastry reading, progressed natal chart reading, if you guys would like business guidance, astrology guidance, you guys can send me an email and we'll go from there, okay? Thank you so much for being a part of the live, for your likes, shares, subscribes, okay? For your comments, for being a part of the channel, for your questions today, for being a part of this conversation. Thank you for being here. I'm going to sign off, and I hope you all have a beautiful rest of your day or evening, wherever you are. Bye.